Welcome back to the party, everybody. This is Morty, and I am your host, Lutch, aka the Indian Jesus, here to resurrect the second coming of common sense. Everybody hit that like and subscribe. You know I would do it for you, and let's party. Not that kind of party, though. Not an Epstein party, not a Diddy party, a Lutch, Indian Jesus, and Morty party. So you may have heard the amazing news that there's no client list, and it is all BS. It is all BS. I don't understand how they ever thought. There you go. Welcome, Morty, to the party. Of course, guys, don't forget every donation comes with a treat for Morty. And speaking of which, shout out to Arrow with the $2. Thank you, thank you, thank you so very, very much. And getting us started on that swole goal. Guys, make sure you check the top of the chat there. I am too puny. I need you guys to bulk me up. So yeah, I mean, there's a bunch of different things that we need to cover. Oh, my guitar is. I thought that was gonna break. A bunch of stuff we need to go over, but I thought the best place to start was Sagar and Jetty from Breaking Points was on with Tucker Carlson, and then we've got a bunch of clips to show you as well. Shout out to Dylan Sue. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the party. Talking about our poll: can this scandal destroy Trump's legacy? I gave the options yes, no, or it's not a scandal. There's no list. What Dylan said, personally, I'm a fourth option. Too early tell / wait and see. Fair enough. But I think some of the things that we will look at, even if the entire thing is not BS, that there's plenty to be angry about. Shout out to King Nirvana in the building. I mean, hey. As always, he told Billy Bush, they let you, and we did not let him do this. No, thank you. So let's dive right in. As always, guys, if you cannot hear the video, please do let me know.
I'll speak for myself. I never thought that I would be offering an apology to Jeffrey Epstein. I think of all the times I've maligned that guy, all the times I've accused him of crimes, of blackmailing people, of trafficking children to powerful figures around the world on behalf of global intel services. And then I learned yesterday from Attorney General Pam Bondi, that's totally untrue.
Yes, yeah.
The guy killed himself after 36 days in prison for no reason. He was a billionaire.
Did he though?
He had no clients. He'd done nothing wrong other than get like naughty massages 20 years before. And the guy killed himself, another pointless death. And then his best friend, former girlfriend, Ghislaine Maxwell, doing 20 years in prison for no crime. There are no victims.
Crime.
Yes, it's a victimless crime. They're obviously persecuted by the state.
Yes.
They're political prisoners, really. It's The Hague should come in and do an investigation, or we're watching one of the most systematic government cover-ups of all time.
I'm going to go with that. I'm going to go with the most systematic cover-up, at least in our lifetime. At least in our lifetime. Let's do it.
Something that you've said that always resonates with me is I don't want to be lied to. And I specifically don't want to be lied to by the very people who built careers. And I'm talking here specifically about Kash.
Shout out again to Arrow. Remember, the highest donation is the sponsor of the stream. And right now, that is Arrow. Thank you so very, very much.
Specifically don't want to be lied to by the very people who built careers. And I'm talking here specifically about Kash Patel, Dan Bongino, and many others who now work for the administration, who fed MAGA and the American people and promised them to get to the bottom of this, only to turn their tune immediately upon assuming office.
Immediately. And I will get to some of the clips.
Lying before Congress, talking about this is an obvious case of suicide, going on the Joe Rogan podcast, and effectively asking for some level of trust that I don't give to any government official.
Would I do this? I don't fucking know you, bro.
FBI Director Kash Patel said, if I had this information, don't you think I would release it? No, I don't, because actually your actions now just in the last couple of days only vindicate the idea that this is not only a systematic government cover-up at the highest levels, not only involving sex trafficking, but going all the way up to the top levels of the U.S. intelligence, the Israeli intelligence community, implicating powerful people, billionaires here in the United States, former prime ministers of Israel, our current president, former presidents of the United States, and for them to come out on the very day, or I guess the day before, that the Israeli prime minister is visiting Washington
for the third time
this year. Why exactly? Can we go?
Because we're buddies.
over that. Last time I checked, this is a country to do about $52 billion in bilateral trade with, equivocal to like Singapore and Chile. I don't remember the last time the Chilean or Singaporean leaders were in Washington for 3 times in the last 6 months, and to who we give $3.3 billion to. Switzerland. These are all countries I love, by the way. I visited all 3 that I just listed. I love them.
Yo, Sagar is cooking. Let's give him an early dilly. My man is cooking right now. Gislaine's like, why am I in jail? No crimes, no victims, no nothing. Dylan said, admittedly, it doesn't look good. We aren't even in year 2, and a significant scandal for his base has surfaced. I mean, to be fair, to play devil's advocate on that, I think that most presidents have gotten into immediate scandals, but yeah, not looking good. Arrow, our sponsor, said, if there's a list, what is anyone going to do about it? Knock on doors? Well, theoretically, we would want to charge these people with the crimes that they committed, but obviously they don't want to do that. And I speculate that this was always the plan. Because there's too much of the uniparty that is implicated. And so they're like, okay, yeah, we're going to release the files, and we're going to release the files, and they release this, that. Same thing with JFK. I don't think they ever planned on releasing that. Shout out to Adam Cadman in the building. Welcome to the party. Very good to see you. We also got Ty Cobb. Said, pardon me, would you have any adrenochrome for me? Not me, but Epstein definitely would. I said, also, if there was no list and all that, why would you need to trust you that there wasn't without strings attached? Yeah, like, well, I mean, to answer that question specifically, if something doesn't exist, I don't have any proof. You can't prove something doesn't exist because it doesn't exist, but we just don't believe that. Bullshit. Welcome to the party, guys. Very good to see you. Thank you for the likes. If you have not, please do hit that like button. It is free and it is easy. $3 billion to Switzerland. These are all countries I love, by the way. I visited all 3 that I just listed. I love them. Would they serve?
And Israel.
Yes.
I think did you go to school in Israel?
That's right. I did 6 weeks in Israel. It's a great country. I like it a lot, but it's not about that. This is about my country. Yep. And so watching this all just get perverted and then used and hijacking our government is just particularly offensive to me, not only just as an American, but I feel particularly not only deceived by the people like the FBI director and the deputy director, Dan Bongino, but the attorney general who went on camera after assuming her office on the White House lawn. These are supposed to mean things, and said, thousands of victims. We have the client list. We have the flight logs. She held a little press conference, whatever event with so-called influencers in which she gave them the Epstein files.
The Epstein files.
In this photo that was released, it turned out that binder actually had redacted information in it, which was already public, just to demonstrate how they were turning the White House effectively into a performative show and making, light of the fact that there are hundreds, if not thousands, of underage victims. And it's just not the victims, it's the fact that it extends to the highest levels of the elite, the transatlantic elite, and possibly even beyond that, from some of the richest men in our country, presidents of the United States, former prime ministers of Israel. We're talking here about Bill Gates, Leon Black, Leslie Wexner, the richest and most powerful people in the world, the Nobel Committee, the community, Harvard, MIT, the tentacles through which this operation had its hands in and stretches all the way back to the 1980s. It is one of the most disgusting intelligence operations, I think, in United States intelligence history.
I agree. And yeah, exactly what King Nirvana is saying. And that I was one of these people who, when we talked about Comet Pizza, I was like, come on, like, all right, I'm sure there's some stuff going on, but like, is it really like that? It really do be like that. And hopefully, I mean, the initial story of Epsteining himself did wake up a lot of people. And I'm hoping this does the same thing exactly as you are saying. Shout out to TV Viewerski. Welcome to the party. The rowdy table. You're here, baby. Welcome to the party.
1980s. It is one of the most disgusting intelligence operations, I think, in United States intelligence history, rivaling some of the things, eventually that led to the death of President Kennedy. Yep. And the thing is around this time, is just like Kennedy, we all know the truth. We know that this document released by the Trump administration is complete bullshit. And I guess that maybe, just like with the Kennedy assassination, they expect us to just get over it in a period of time. And I genuinely think it's incumbent on anybody who was either supportive of the president, any United States citizen, to say no. We demand like absolute and total transparency.
And this is, I brought up JFK, but even more recently with the COVID stuff, the fact that the Pfizer documents are not set to be released until 2076. It's like, why? And when you look at all those things, you really do start to see that, that is I forgot the phrase, but, it's just business as usual. Hey, shout out to TV Viewerski with the $10 PayPal. Thank you so very, very much. Of course, a treat for Morty. That is 2 out of 15 and 12 out of 50 to that swole goal. And of course, that makes you the new sponsor of the stream. Giving it up for Morty. Thank you so very, very much, sir.
President, any United States citizen to say no. We demand like absolute and total transparency on this case, and particularly of these government officials. Do not use your platform to enrich yourself on these podcast platforms and constantly talk about Epstein and the Epstein files, eventually assume office, change on a dime, and expect us to trust you. That is not how this works. No. And in particular, in that document, I think it's one of the most disgusting documents ever released by the United States government, because it said there was no blackmail, we're not releasing this information. Kash Patel has this new line about how we're not going to re-victimize women. Ask the Epstein victims themselves. They have been begging for this information to come to light, specifically to implicate the powerful men that victimized them and through which they were, they were basically used for trafficking purposes to ensnare them in this high-level U.S. intelligence, Israeli intelligence operation.
Nah, it just didn't happen, bro. That didn't happen.
Probably run in conjunction. And the trail of this entire thing it enrages me. It actually enrages me as an American.
I don't think you're alone. And I do think as someone who voted for the president, campaigned for the president a lot, I'm not attacking the president, but I think
I am. I figured I'd wait till a few more people come in, but in case, let's just take a peek at the press conference that the moment that really pissed me off, that somebody was asking Pam Bondi about what's going on with all of this, and Donnie felt the need to jump in and not let her answer the question, well, as best as he could.
And released yesterday in Jeffrey Epstein, it left some lingering mysteries. One of the biggest ones is whether he ever worked for a American or foreign intelligence agency. The former labor secretary, who was Miami U.S. Attorney Alex Costa, he allegedly said that he did work for an intelligence agency. So could you resolve whether or not he did? And also, could you say why there was a minute missing from the jailhouse tape?
Yeah, sure.
Reasonable questions. Absolutely reasonable questions. Shout out to CT2 23. Welcome to the party. If you guys did not see this clip, they did a press conference about all of the, well, really about, just what was going on. And someone asked Pam Bondi, like, what's going on with the Epstein stuff?
And also, could you say why there was a minute missing from the jailhouse tape?
Yeah, sure.
Could I just interrupt for 1 second? Are you still talking about Jeffrey Epstein?
Yeah, motherfucker. Why would we not? As if a major story from your administration didn't just drop 3 days ago. And I think this is 2 days ago, right? No, this is yesterday. So, even if you are trying to politic your way out of talking about this, why are you still talking about it? I was just telling King Nirvana in Discord that I hate that women have overused gaslighting, because this is gaslighting. You are the weird one for caring about Epstein. You're the weird one for caring about the most incredibly demonic thing possibly that exists on Earth. Why do you still care?
Could I just interrupt for 1 second? Are you still talking about Jeffrey Epstein? This guy's been talked about for years. You're asking, we have Texas, we have this, we have all of the things. And are people still talking about this guy, this creep? That is unbelievable. Do you want to waste the time?
Why is it unbelievable? What's unbelievable is your reaction here and the fact that there's no file.
That is unbelievable. Do you want to waste the time, and do you feel like answering?
I don't mind answering.
I mean, I can't believe you're asking a question on Epstein at a time.
And I mean, Pam. Okay, that was the office. But Donnie gave you the out. and then you decided to still spill your bullshit. Why? Take the out.
Feel like answering?
I don't mind answering.
I mean, I can't believe you're asking a question on Epstein at a time like this where we're having some of the greatest success and also tragedy with what happened in Texas. It just seems like a desecration, but you go ahead.
A desecration. I agree. This is a desecration of your credibility.
Sure. First, to back up on that, in February, I did an interview on Fox, and it's been getting a lot of attention because I said, I was asked a question about the client list, and my response was, it's sitting on my desk to be reviewed, meaning the file along with the JFK MLK files as well. That's what I meant by that. Also, to the tens of thousands of video, they turned out to be child porn downloaded by that disgusting Jeffrey Epstein. Child porn is what they were. Never going to be released, never going to see the light of day. To him being an agent, I have no knowledge about that. We can get back to you on that. And the minute missing from the video, we released the video showing definitively the video was not conclusive, but the evidence prior to it was showing he committed suicide. And what was on that, there was a minute that was off the counter. And what we learned from Bureau of Prisons was every year, every night, they redo that video. It's old, from like 1999. So every night the video is reset, and every night should have the same minute missing. So we're looking for that video to release that as well, showing
bullshit. That is the dumbest. That's not. Why would you speak? You had the opportunity. The president interrupted the media coming after you, and you did this. Why? Why does that make any sense? Yeah, Ruby is not happening. Not happy with it. And then so we got a couple other clips here from Candace did a deep dive on this. I wanted to use this episode of her talking about it. But she just spitting facts hard, just like this happened and then that happened and that happened. So it wasn't really much space for me, but I definitely suggest you guys go watch this. It's episode 211.
And who attended his funeral. Leslie Wexner, look up everything that he donates to. And he's essentially, he works for Israel. This is like a known fact. But you guys, I want you to be calm. It's all good. Because now the Department of Justice has come out and they say that Jeffrey Epstein, he had no list. The girl has no name. Here it is in Axios.
A girl has no name.
The DOJ, the FBI conclude that Epstein had no client list and he died by suicide. Nothing to see here. And that's what happened. They made that conclusion. They had no evidence that the convicted sex offender and disgraced financier, or even calling him that, I don't even know how he's allowed to be deemed a financier, that there was no evidence that he blackmailed powerful figures, or that he kept a client list, or that he was murdered, according to the memo. And now if you're thinking, didn't we see when the FBI raided his home that there was a photo and he had all of these tapes? That's a lot of stuff. Yeah, here's another photo. It just seems like he maybe had a lot, but no, guys, that's not, there's nothing that indicates
just nerfing
anything at all, nothing at all. And yeah, they also are releasing some raw and enhanced versions of footage of the Manhattan prison where Epstein was held the night that he died. And they say that the video supports the medical examiner's findings that Epstein died by suicide. And the footage is
convenient,
hilarious. Just it's like one image of like, see, no one walks towards his cell. I mean, oh, okay. Here it is, guys. I guess that means since no one entered the cell this way, that it's totally impossible.
And then you can see, I'll move the banner here. If you're not familiar with that 1 minute they're talking about, it goes from 11:59.
That anybody entered another way. It's totally
Why? Oh, well, they always do that. Why would you put him somewhere where you know that they turn the cameras off every single night? What are we doing?
Possible that anything else happened, because look, we're showing you the footage, friends. It's over. Look away. I mean, now the nation that cared so much about Jonathan Pollard that they blackmailed Clinton to get him back, to try to get him back. And when that failed, they still were able, by the way, to get, you guys watch the clip of what she said on Fox News. Take a listen.
This is what she was referring to in the press conference that we saw where Trump was interrupting. It was this.
Client list was on her desk. I mean, I'll let you guys watch the clip of what she said on Fox News. Take a listen.
The DOJ may be releasing the list of Jeffrey Epstein's clients. Will that really happen?
It's sitting on my desk right now to review. That's been a directive by President Trump. I'm reviewing that. I'm reviewing JFK files, MLK files. That's all in the process of being reviewed because that was done at the directive of the president from all of these agencies.
So have you seen
So TV said, I think what happened is the deep state got something over on the Trump administration. I think this is an unforced error as the deep state didn't expect the Streisand effect to kick in. They never do. I'm taking the wins. Especially the NFA. What's the NFA? Yeah, say more on what the win is here. I'm not sure I'm fully with you. CD said Whitney Webb is a great journalist on this topic. Meanwhile, Ghislaine Maxwell is doing 20 years for him not being blackmailed. That's how the justice system works. Dylan said it's weird how the time happens just at the right time. Yep, it's convenient. You know, I mean, God works in mysterious ways, right, guys? Oh, the National Firearms Act. Definitely.
So being reviewed because that was done at the directive of the president from all of these agencies.
So have you seen anything that you said, oh my gosh?
Not yet.
Well, I guess that makes sense because there's nothing there, right?
Okay. Well, we'll check back with you.
And then Alina Habba went on to Piers Morgan in February and said that they had flight logs, information, that they had names. I mean, take a listen.
In this case, in Epstein's case, it is incredibly disturbing. We have flight logs, we have information, names that will come out.
Do you though? Will they though?
Is it going to be shocking?
Oh, indeed, it is shocking. Just not in the way we thought.
I don't see how it's not shocking that there were so many individuals that were hidden and kept secret and not been held accountable. Let's talk about the reverse. I believe in accountability. So you have to now go through your process. Now, I won't say they're guilty until they go through their time in court. But again, now it's time for accountability. We have seen for so many years, Pierce, in this country, many investigations, subpoenas, testimonies in Congress, et cetera, et cetera. But there's a general frustration with accountability. We take it halfway. We don't take it home. And I really believe that now with Kash and Pam, there will be accountability.
Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take out my little Men in Black tool, and just wipe your memory real quick. Phew, phew. She didn't say any of that. Phew. Okay, cool. Now let's run Caroline Leavitt at the White House briefing earlier today. Take a listen.
DOJ and FBI have now concluded there was no Jeffrey Epstein client list. What do you tell MAGA supporters who say they want anyone involved in Jeffrey Epstein's alleged crimes to be held accountable?
This administration wants anyone who has ever committed a crime to be held accountable. And I would argue this administration
Do you though?
Administration has done more to lock up bad guys than certainly the previous administration. And the Trump administration is committed to truth and to transparency. That's why the Attorney General and the FBI Director pledged at the president's direction to do an exhaustive review of all of the files related to Jeffrey Epstein's crimes and his death. And they put out a memo in conclusion of that review. There was material they did not release because, frankly, it was incredibly graphic and it contained child pornography, which is not something that's appropriate for public consumption. But they committed to an exhaustive investigation. That's what they did. And they provided the results of that. That's transparency.
Getting flashbacks to Kareem Jean-Pierre, whatever the fuck her name was. But yeah, like if you guys are interested in this kind of stuff, I'll drop the link to this one here because Candace does the deep dive. Yeah, the neuralizer. So let's do one more clip here from Candace. It was 212, I think, episode 212. And
with your chest. That's all I'm asking. It's very simple. Ask Elon Musk. Then the person sitting completely forgets that nobody made more of a show of the Jeffrey Epstein files and the release of those files than the person sitting to the right of him, Pam Bondi. That's why we're here. Pam Bondi was the one who notoriously handed out binders to a bunch of online influencers.
Like imagine being one of those people that is literally a tool for a photo op. They knew, well, I mean, there's plausible deniability, but there's every reason to believe they knew that everything in that binder was already public information. I've been saying that since the beginning. I think he's living on his island, chilling with Ghislaine. I think both of them are home free.
On February 27th. Okay, that was supposed to be apparently phase 1. And then too many of those influencers decided to pose in like cute pics with the binders. Okay, like this, look at this influencer. Cute pic, just me with the binder. See that? It says in red print, in case you can't see it, the Epstein files, phase 1.
Psych!
And ironically, when we took a look at some of those individuals, They were very new to the influencing scene, and they weren't even influencing that girl with the Q pick, Emily Austin. Nobody really knows who Emily Austin is.
Put a one in the chat if you've never heard of Emily Austin.
Other than the fact that she's a radical Zionist that is currently being shoved down our mouths. They're like, you will take her, and they're desperately trying to make this girl happen. And somehow, at the beginning of her influencing career, she gets invited to the White House and is handed an Epstein binder.
Stop trying to make fetch happen.
Okay, and then she makes a very influencing video about having that binder. Let's take a listen to it.
I saw y'all on the internet coming for Kash Patel saying he's day 5 and we haven't gotten the Epstein files. Well, I'm here outside the West Wing and look at what we got today. The Epstein files, baby. Let's make America safe again.
Nerfing and nerfing and nerf.
And then when people pointed out the fact that this felt extraordinarily staged, and also noticing that nobody there had been critical of Israel, I don't know, kind of a big thing that we want to see if we really feel like we're going to get to the heart of what's going on with Epstein, then people were accused of just being jealous that they weren't invited to Pam Bondi's binder party. Like Pam Bondi, she had a binder.
Wait, Dylan's the only one who hasn't heard of that chick? All right, I guess you and me are living under the rocks, brother.
Party, and you just weren't invited. That's why you're jealous. Okay. And like I said, strangely, not a single individual there had been critical of Israel in any way. But somehow this young woman, Emily Austin, who virtually no one had heard of, was there. And I want to be clear, when I say like the level of Zionist that this girl is, and they are trying to make like fetch happen, she knows nothing, and they just keep putting her in front of a camera. Like she recently went up Piers Morgan and had a debate with Scott Horton, who you should not debate unless you know what you are talking about. But she was just out there to defend Israel's actions bombing Iran, right? And they just put her up on stage. You're like, here, you're like a cute conservative. Just go up against Scott Horton and say things good about Israel.
The Tommy Lauren situation.
She did not even know who the leader of Iran was. Take a listen to this clip. It's actually hilarious.
And shout out to Scott Horton, one of Dave Smith's big influences. Spot on, as always.
He keeps saying that Iran's not a threat to America. So since Scott decided to become Iran's mouthpiece, can you please clarify for me what Khomeini means when he says death to America, death to the West, and forceful conversions? Can you translate in the language that you so clearly understand that all of us are missing? Thank you.
Sure. Yeah. So first of all, Khomeini died in 1989. You don't know what you're talking about. Second of all, the chant, you'll notice, all of y'all in the audience and on the panel notice.
I just wanted to show that. That is just absolutely, it's amazing.
And I don't know, I mean, I don't know what to do with this, but I did listen to Dave Smith's podcast, and he was talking about, he has a friend who speaks Persian, and he got in an Uber one time, and the first thing that the Uber driver said in that language was death to traffic. Just saying. But all right, let's dive back in.
For the president, campaign for the president a lot. I'm not attacking the president, but I think. And
again, I am attacking the president.
Even people who are fully on board with.
I mean, I care. I don't know about you, Ty, but I care.
With, the bulk of the MAGA agenda are like, this is too much. Actually.
Yes.
I'm saying that with love, and I hope that they're listening. Because I think this threatens to blow up the whole thing. But let's just back up a little bit and just pick at some of the inconsistencies here. So you're saying that Pam Bondi said on camera, we have a client list.
You seen it.
White House lawn.
I've seen the client list.
Yes.
And then yesterday she's saying there's no client list.
There's no client list. And there was no systematic blackmail. That actually might be the most preposterous line in the document.
But it doesn't make any sense. So they've said that there were thousands of young people, in some cases minors, underage children, sexually victimized. Are they saying that Epstein single-handedly had sex with all? Because
that's the only way to interpret it, that he was doing all this bad stuff and everybody else was just going to the island to have consensual relations with adults. Makes sense, right?
For whatever it's worth, I don't think I've never seen anyone make the claim that Epstein had sex with anybody.
Yes, that's right. Well, a lot of these allegations revolve around like group activities and they're around like masseuse and being, I mean, look, the way that Dershowitz and others would claim is I kept my underwear on and it was all very above the board massage information. There's that famous photo of Bill Clinton in the airport terminal with one of these young victims who herself actually was a victim of the Epstein.
Oh, I thought they were talking about the blue dress.
Entire machine. So you're exactly right. It's like for these thousands of women, were they victimized entirely by Ghislaine Maxwell and by Jeffrey Epstein? Because by the way, that's not even what the Ghislaine Maxwell, Jeffrey Epstein court documents and other things that we already knew that were in the public information. That's not what they say. That's not what the testimony of the victims of these people say. And so again, even this client list thing, I do think people can go down the rabbit hole too much and think that there is, as you know, there's no ledger as in client had sex with so-and-so and we because of that supported Israel. Like that's not how it works.
So the term client list itself is misleading.
It's misleading because really what we want is a full list of the victims, of the people who flew on the flight logs. But the most important is the money. And I think a lot of people actually miss that in the Epstein story. Jeffrey Epstein.
I think, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Because obviously, again, they're like you just said, they're not going to log, okay, we got Julie, she's 17, and this guy fucked her, whatever. You got to follow the money.
Came to power largely because he worked at Bear Stearns and effectively was like a high finance money laundering expert. That's effectively what we can learn from his background. That's how he came involved with Leon Black. Leon Black was one of the most powerful men in New York, and this is the head of the Apollo Group. He paid him $170 million through various shell corporations for tax advice.
She Epsteined herself. Maybe she's back on the island.
And when he was caught doing that, he was said, actually, it wasn't even useful because all the tax advice was actually in the public domains. What? I mean, Leslie Wexner in the 1991, I believe, signed full power of attorney over to Jeffrey Epstein. He was one of the richest men in America. I think he was the richest man in Ohio at that time. Jeffrey Epstein becomes the head of the Wexner Foundation, funnels some $2.5 million to Ehud Barak, the former Israeli prime minister. I'm putting these things out there because I want people to know that the money is an integral part of the operation. And to the extent that the sex trafficking and all of that is linked, they are fused together because they were used primarily by the intelligence community. Both Epstein was a conduit of high stakes money laundering for things like, not Iran-Contra specifically, but let's say like funneling arms from Israel to Iran. This was also how he met eventually Robert Maxwell and became ensnared with his daughter, Ghislaine Maxwell. The money laundering.
That's what CT was talking about before. Where is it? It's here. I missed it. Where is it? It's right here somewhere. But yeah, her father was definitely a Mossad agent.
Is actually more key to his intelligence rules.
From Israel to Iran.
Well, this was a key part of the Maxwell story. Robert Maxwell is a very sketchy character. Ghislaine Maxwell's father. People focus on the tabloid.
Yeah, but don't fall far from the tree. Shout out to Richard Hardy in the building. Welcome. So 10 years ago, I was saying this stuff about Lex Wexner, and all I ever got from anyone was cries of "You're a Nazi." Yep, and that's what King Nirvana was saying earlier. That a lot of people, myself included, when the whole P-gate, not Pissgate, the gate of pizza, when that was all going down, a lot of people were like, "Come on, that's crazy. That's conspiracy talk." And hey, turns out to be true. So hopefully a lot more people are opening their eyes. We also got a Maverick being Frank. Welcome. Said, remember, there's a petition available to deport all atheists. Signatures, welcome. The woke right strikes again. You don't agree with me, therefore you don't get to be here. Welcome to the party.
Maxwell story. Robert Maxwell is a very sketchy character. Ghislaine Maxwell's father. People focus on the tabloid. That's actually not all what I'm interested in. What I'm interested in is the fact that he's this Czechoslovakian Orthodox Jew who escapes from the Nazis.
To be fair, bro, what percentage of people that shop at Victoria's Secret actually know anything about stuff like this? I think they're just buying underwear. And becomes a highly decorated soldier. Actually, I think he won the second highest medal in the UK for his operations during World War II. From that point forward, becomes very, very enmeshed with the Zionist community inside of the UK and propping up the newly formed state of Israel. From that point forward, he basically serves as a high stakes, almost an entity in and of itself. That's the way that Daryl Cooper has described him, is like a sovereign wealth fund almost, which with together brokers all kinds of cutout deals, between Israel and Iran. And actually, Epstein himself, when he was just 28 years old, flew on a private jet, I believe, to the Pentagon with somebody who we know is directly linked to these, previous intelligence operations and funneling money and weapons. So what you're saying is we know for a fact that there's not nothing. We know for a fact that something exists. And so for them to tell us there's nothing, it is the most blatant lie that they could tell.
Into many of these conflicts. So this stretches back decades, and that's a very, very important part of the story. So please just do not tell me that there's no part of a systematic blackmail campaign. It's so preposterous, and it actually just makes me want to tear my hair out. And I guess the only good news is that, just like with the Kennedy assassination, we do all know the truth. The Kennedy assassination broke this country. I really believe that. I know you do as well. But it broke something even more fundamental and opened up what they called the credibility gap under the Johnson administration, where prior to the 1960s, Americans trusted their government.
Imagine living in that world where you could look at your politicians and trust them. Now, there's definitely an argument to be made that like they just didn't know about the stuff to not trust those politicians. But you know, I mean, it's definitely a different world. Maverick said, "I'm not far right. Trump is complicit. He appointed Acosta, and Acosta was the one who let Epstein off in 2008." I mean, the fact that he was like, "Well, why are you guys still talking about that?" That right there is all I need to see to be like, "Oh, you're fucking with us. You're fucking with us." That's not how you talk. That's not how you think. That's not how you address issues. That the only thing he's ever been like, "We're doing this again," is when they ask him to denounce white supremacy and neo-Nazis and the KKK and stuff like that. Anything else, he's always willing to answer the question. Why? Because he usually has an answer. Maybe not everybody loves it, but it's a fucking answer instead of politicking away from it like he tried to do there. Adam said, "Trump," Bibi replied, "even the dogs under the table eat the children's crumbs." Then Trump told Bibi, "For such a reply, you may go. The Epstein case is closed." Yikes. CT said, "Robert Maxwell died from drowning in a lake in his backyard from a kayaking accident while his dinner was still on the table." Who goes kayaking in the middle of dinner? I mean, hey, again, rich people be doing some weird shit. Weird, but I agree. Probably didn't happen like that. Probably not.
The Johnson administration, where prior to the 1960s, Americans trusted their government. It was actually, it was a beautiful thing. I mean, it was bad in some ways as well. We were taken advantage of by the Dulles brothers and a lot of other horrible things they were doing in the 1950s. But it was beautiful in the sense of social and of civic trust.
Yeah.
And there's something was broken with that, with the Kennedy assassination. And then it was extended, of course, into the war in Vietnam. And we've never been the same since. Nope. And all the Trump administration elected on the backs of a lot of these people who want more transparency in government, saw a lot of this corruption.
It was supposed to be a return to that, with the understanding that the people before us were lying and we're going to do things better. Nope. Oh, I missed Waco Mine. Welcome to the party. So clearly, powerful law enforcement agencies and individuals are involved in keeping this false narrative going. Anyone remember how the media treated Michael Jackson? Yet they tossing out the Diddy case. It's all a fucking dog and pony show. And I think that what the similar to with the Prince Andrew 60 Minutes, I think it was 60 Minutes, but that interview where he was like, "Yeah, I'm buddies with Epstein," and like it just made him look terribly bad. Like he absolutely definitely does fuck little girls. The question is, why would you do that? And the only real answer that makes sense is that interview for Prince Andrew was a better situation than Epstein letting out whatever information he had on him. And so when we see all of this, obviously people aren't going to believe this, but it's more of a message to all the people implicated. They're like, "Don't worry, we got this. It doesn't matter how bad we look. There is no way we are ever letting people know that you did this." The deep state is deeper than we ever thought.
To just turn around and do the same thing, it's just too much. It's too much for me, and I think it's too much for a lot of other people.
Either way, whatever the blackmail was worse than doing that interview. And I think same thing, like the credibility of Trump and Pam Bondi and Kash Patel and Dan Bongino, all of that, for whatever reason, I couldn't even fathom what it is. But there is absolutely something that is worse for them than trying to push this lie. Otherwise, why would they do it?
I remember thinking when Epstein killed himself, I never met Epstein, but I mean, he, knew everybody. I mean, I will say, in the defense of people who got caught up in this because they went to dinner at Epstein's, like that George Stephanopoulos, for example, who I disagree with on everything, but like, I know George, and I don't think George is having sex with kids at Epstein's. Yeah. Like Epstein was, just part of like the social fabric, right? And
yeah, I agree. They don't look like they're lying to try to get something extra. It seems like exactly what CT is saying, that they're scared. And that makes sense. They probably threaten their family. That's probably just the first level. And yeah, that rabbit hole goes deep. Adam said, yesterday, Trump ascended to the throne of the deep state swamp. Oh, man. Who would have ever known? Like, okay, the background context to all of this is I am happy that this is not something that is a left-right issue. This is a government versus the people issue, because there's I'm surprised I haven't gotten any DMs from liberals on this, but you know, you would think that they would be trying to use this as a dunk on Trump, but I think even the biggest Trump haters can see that this is bigger. This is bigger than just that. I mean, I hope. Maverick said, hierarchy of the monarchy is also a factor too. How many millions and millions went to King Charles as a result cannot be dismissed. Indeed. Maybe. I would definitely vote for Tucker over Kamala. As of yesterday, definitely not over Trump. But we'll see where this goes.
It's like Epstein was, you know, just part of like the social fabric, right? And Trump knew him for that reason also. But when he killed himself, I remember thinking people were like, he didn't kill himself. I was like, he probably killed himself. You know, he's in jail or whatever. His brother Mark called me a couple days after he killed himself. And so began this like 3-year-long conversation with Mark Epstein and looking into it in a way I never thought I would. He didn't kill himself.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I'm saying. Wait, come on. That, you know, this isn't something to be like, see, now do you regret your vote? As if there was going to be somebody who wouldn't pull this bullshit. Clearly, they didn't release anything when they were in office. So why would we think that they would do it in this term? Shout out to Tag. Welcome to the party. Very good to see. Say, we're still talking about Epstein. Y'all act like he did something that implicates the biggest names out there and the powers that be or something. I think you're onto something, brother. I think you are onto something. Welcome to the party. We also got Sandor Clegane. Welcome to the Hound. Said MAGA's twisting themselves into pretzels, trying to defend their daddy Trump. You should have watched a little bit more before you said that, because I've been shitting on Trump. I've been shitting on Trump the entire time. I've been saying it is Trump's fault, and this is going to destroy his legacy. So nice try, but welcome to the party. We also got the true disciple Avery in the building. Welcome to the party. Very, very good to see you, sir. Always a pleasure. Good to see you. Before we dive in, let's take a little break. If you guys are enjoying the show, the party rages on 24/7 over in our Discord. The link is pinned to the top of the chat and is absolutely free to join 24/7. We're in there hanging out, having a great time. And guys, it is absolutely free. However, if you are a member of this channel here on YouTube, you can scroll right below that video and hit that join button. Starts at $2.99. There's a few different tiers, but $2.99 will get you in. It gets you members only live streams here on YouTube, all that other good stuff. But it opens up the full Discord server. So we've got the free chat that is open to anyone. Anybody can join and talk. But as you can see, that is just one of our channels. There's a bunch of different channels here, including our disciple chat for members only, our word of the day watch party, where we're talking about all this stuff. And of course, we have the voice channel here, where we are hanging out at this moment. Shout out to everybody in the Discord server. Say hello and tell them to come and join. There you go, guys. Simple as that. See you there. And of course, remember, guys, other than the free chat, that is open to everybody. That is the link that is pinned at the top of the chat. Everything else is for channel members only, including that after party you just saw. But if you join the free chat before this stream is over, you get a day pass to come hang out with us. It is a good time. Definitely come through. Adam said, Tucker's like that clock on the Epstein footage. Time is slipping. Yep. Richard said, Kamala Harris said, Tukan Olam on national TV. I don't know what that means. Anyone that would believe she wouldn't be doing the exact same thing when it comes to this issue is not a person that is very well informed. Agreed. Sandor said, I watched a stream where a guy said he has a good reason. He could be doing this to stop the world collapsing. There's definitely going to be the sycophants. And I think that is, if we have to look at a silver lining here, if we have to find a silver lining, it is a clear sign that MAGA is clearly not a cult, because we are very split. Because I would tell that dude, not you, Sandra, the guy who said that, be like, fuck off. You're a piece of shit, and you're just coping. That's just cope. Guadek said Tim Pool has really started to grind my gears with his Trump cult leadership. I'm still MAGA over everything, but I'll call out the bullshit when I see it. I said, me too. I said, shit, me too. Dilly to that. Dilly to having principles and not just positions. Long live Candace Owens. Yeah, I mean, I don't love how deep she is in the Jews versus Israel thing, but she's spot on with this.
Epstein, and looking into it in a way I never thought I would, he didn't kill himself.
Yeah.
He was murdered in his cell.
Yeah.
And I think that's really meaningful. It's the most secure federal lockup in the United States. How can that happen?
Well,
it can't happen without state actors involved.
That's right. Look at the story that we were told at that time. Part of the information dump here by the administration is some hours of footage. We were told that footage didn't exist. We were told that this was some guards who were, off. They fell asleep. They fell asleep. None of it exists. And actually, it was all part of a screw up, and the camera angles wouldn't even be able to show anything. But that's why they're relatively confident. So
you don't can they really not have thought of a better story? They really couldn't have thought of, somebody, he was walking in the hall for his dinner time or exercise time, and somebody took him out because this, that. The best thing you could think of is 7 different incredible coincidences all at the same time. What are we doing? What are we doing? Shout out to DJ Isolated. Welcome to the party. Sickening indeed. Indeed. Welcome. Yeah, listen to
all that footage didn't exist. We were told that this was some guards who were, off.
They fell asleep.
That's what I'm saying.
Fell asleep. None of it exists. And actually, it was all part of a screw up, and the camera angles wouldn't even be able to show anything. But that's why they're relatively confident. So where did this camera footage even come from?
Well, the camera footage doesn't even, first of all, it ends before they take his body out. Right. Why can't we see that?
Yep.
And
because then you would know that it's fake.
The angle on it is absurd. Yeah. But the real question, just not to be pedantic, but the real question is, who are the other inmates on that cell block? So no one came in or out of the cell block. I think that's fair. It was the most secure cell block in that federal lockup in Manhattan. But who are the other inmates? And I went to...
Oh, no. There were no inmates.
Department of Prisons, which is part of DOJ, and asked, what are their names? Oh, we can't for privacy reasons. Really? These are people who can't vote or own a firearm?
Yes.
For the rest of their lives, but somehow they've got a HIPAA law or something around who's a federal inmate? Fuck you, actually.
Yeah.
Sorry. It made me so mad.
We gotta F you from Tucky Tucks.
Because, of course, if Epstein was murdered, and it's very clear that he was murdered by another inmate.
That's right.
And we know that a bunch of them were transferred out of that unit right after he died. Who were they? Where are they now?
Mm-hmm.
Why can't we get an answer to that question? So the whole thing that this tape shows he didn't kill himself is like a joke. But
and even Pam Bondi in that same press conference we were just looking at, she's like, so in the tape, it definitively doesn't prove it, but the other evidence definitively proves it. What? Fucking pardon? Gonzaga said, you think Trump would have learned from the left that you shouldn't chastise your base for being roughly concerned about something that you swore mattered to you. Yeah, how dare we? How dare we care about the thing that you said you care about and we're going to solve, or at least shed some light on? He said the better question is, where are the thousands of victims? Thousands of humans have disappeared. Nuh-uh, didn't happen, bro. Didn't you listen to the government? They said it didn't happen.
Worse than that, it's a joke that we all get. They're not fooling anybody. So I feel like we're at a dangerous point now.
Yeah, I agree, because the lie is more the lie at this point is not even part of trying to convince any of this is true.
Yes.
The lie is a signal to everybody else involved in the scheme that to the ultimate ends, the United States government will go to protect all of you.
Yes.
I told you. Exactly. there's no way that they thought this was going to be something that people would swallow whole. I think that, there's a pattern with Trump specifically, but, just people in government kind of throwing out some ideas and seeing how it goes. And King Nirvana brought up the Streisand effect, that this made it bigger instead of making it smaller. I don't believe that they actually believed that this would be something that people would believe. And so the only other rational explanation is that it's not for us. It's for the people that are implicated, that are scared. Oh no, we might get in trouble. But because it's bipartisan, because it's not a left-right thing, because they're all in the Uniparty, they're all on the same team, now including Trump apparently, or maybe always including Trump, who fucking knows. And it's spot on. So he just said, I like Sagar. I don't know why he still does his show with that stripper named Crystal Ball. Solo Sagar show would be good. I agree. He fucking cooks, but I cannot watch them. She is insufferable. And she wasn't always like that. When they were, what was it before Breaking Points? I forget what the name was. But back then, when they had the thing with the match, I don't remember what it was. But I used to watch them. I don't know how this happened, but both Kyle Kulinski and Crystal Ball made each other worse. They were both somewhat, Crystal more than Kyle, but they were both people that I could listen to get a perspective from the other side. Not since they've been together. Guamtech said, I seriously won't be surprised if they come out and try to obfuscate the semantics of what they meant by the Epstein list. They already did. That was the fucking binder thing. That it was lying about what was the list. Waco and said, sort of like how they're cutting medical benefits for the peoples, including their own supporters. Trump is a traitor. People are not happy. Hey, shout out to Box in the building. Welcome to the party. A disciple for 7 months. My goodness. Thank you so very, very much. Shout out to Sagar. Shout out to you, and shout out to all of the disciples. And of course, Avery, our true disciple. Welcome. All right, let's dive back in here.
Any of this is true.
Yes.
The lie is a signal to everybody else involved in the scheme that to the ultimate ends, the United States government will go to protect all of you.
Yes.
And that's the for
Man,
what
is that smart
purpose?
Can you say that again? Okay,
yes.
So it's a signal.
The lie is not for you and me. The lie is for those implicated to say, no matter what, we will protect you. And then we have to start asking the question, why? As in, what is the purpose of this entire thing? Why does it matter that it happens right before the Israeli prime minister comes to Washington for the third time? As you said, what is the linkage here between those two? And the linkage is the fact that even a surface level view of Jeffrey Epstein, of the case, of the entire public record, reveals Alex Acosta, who said he belonged to intelligence. He said that. The person who was responsible for the sweetheart 13-month deal. Alex Acosta, who was the U.S. attorney, said, and I believe he testified this in sworn testimony, said, I was told he belonged to intelligence. That was a key part of why the charges were dropped against him. And, he got some sweetheart Palm Beach County jail situation where he was allowed to leave on the weekends. And why, even though I know you'll forgive George, but I actually won't. I don't have dinner with pedophiles. I'm not sure about you. I'm generally aware.
Nope.
Of the people who I am around, and if I get invited to someone's house, I do cursory Google searches. That's generally what
Okay, well, I don't go that far, but
I think that's normal. I don't.
It's definitely not normal, but it is smart.
Want to be in the presence of people who I think are like genuinely evil. That's what I think. So for me, I actually can't forgive many of the media figures and the presidents, people like Bill Clinton, Kevin Spacey, all these other high-profile figures, specifically because it was all out in the public record. And then in particular, all of these high-flying Wall Street financiers and Deutsche Bank. Remember, they were fined. I think it was the New York Financial Services. I read that entire report. It's one of the most extraordinary reports I've ever seen.
And yeah, CT is saying how it could be a simple thing that powerful. It could be Saudi princes, it could be anybody who is powerful that have a common interest to keep this secret. And because they are the ones in power, they are they are the they, and we are the we. They are going to do whatever they can to protect the they.
Because they specifically talk about how the bank ignored almost every single one of its own procedures that it would apply to any other client. And that at the highest levels, and remember, I think it's the Barclays CEO, he's already been in trouble for this, for covering up much of this in one of the largest financial institutions in the entire world. You know, for example, Tucker, if you and I keep going to the bank and withdrawing $9,900 in cash, and we do it for a couple of weeks, our banking institutions are supposed to call, you know, both the IRS and the DOJ and say, something is going on here.
And they will.
And they should, right? That is what this is done for a reason. He did this for years, and the classification that the bank accepted was it was just for tips. This is what I mean about the highest level of the cover up and what the cover up means for the system itself. And something you and I were talking about recently is I really believe here that, and I've never believed it more, that in a sense, you know, for elected government and for all the benefits of our republic and of representation, that elites actually have always mattered. And of course, they're the ones who run, they're the ones responsible for channeling public energy. This is the way that we're set up into law, into policy, etc. And so this lie was a signal to the elites.
It's just that simple. It's just that simple. Now, whether it is Saudi princes or Jews or anything else, the fact is it doesn't need to be something super complicated that they're covering up. It doesn't need to be something super complicated. They're trying to make it into something complicated so that they can cover it up, but it's probably relatively simple. On the side of Israel, if the Israel connection is real, the Epstein stuff, and the Elon feud is probably a humiliation ritual. Say more on that. What do you mean exactly? Shout out to Lil Toes. Welcome. Yep. Both innocent. Didn't do nerfing. He just really likes baby oil. And Epstein just really likes massages.
The signal to Versailles. It was the signal to the court that the court will always be protected no matter what. And it's enraging at a moment when the court has never been more reviled by the public. It's not just a spit in the face of the public. It really is like a late, you know, it's a late 17.
Why are the captions not matching the thing? Let's do it.
1800s kind of signal to the court that we will protect this institution no matter what. And it's really a question for the rest of us as to if we're going to continue to put up with this.
I wonder what our recourse is. Can I say one thing that
Adam said the they is Israel. The why is to keep from uncovering that Epstein was Mossad. For what it was Mossad for what it was, so Trump can implement his Middle Eastern peace plan. And I mean, this is I'm starting to realize that there is a lot, I'm not starting to realize, but I mean, you know, going back to the October 7th, remember I had people on to just ask like, hey, what is going on here? I just didn't really know one way or the other. And of course, we got a bunch of people that were saying, oh, Israel is so innocent, and it's the Europeans and Churchill and this and that and that and that. And I've since gotten a better picture that it's like, oh, okay, that's kind of cope. And it's not that simple, and it is you know, not just more complicated, but very easy to put a lot of blame for a lot of things on the government of Israel. What I don't understand is when people start to see that and recognize that and want to express that to other people, it's the Jews. Why is it not Israel? Why is it not Netanyahu? No, I don't even know who was in charge before Netanyahu, but why? If somebody could explain to me why it is specifically a Jew from New York as the same thing as Netanyahu, and it's not the government of Israel, then I'll get on board. But I've never, ever heard that. Ironically, the auto-generated captions are the ones that are good. The ones that we were watching, this, for whatever reason, they put it in Spanish. Well, I guess so people that speak Spanish could watch it. Duh. And then it retranslated it back. So that's why it was off. But this is the auto-generated and is on point. So Richard said you can't just blame Israel when the influence is clearly extreme in the U.S. From who? The influence from who? If not Israel. Waco Wine said many world leaders are involved in nefarious activity like today's topic. They wish to push the envelope even further and drive home that people have limited power to prosecute them. Yeah, some of it is just as simple as I'm going to do this because I can do this, and you can't stop me.
I was reading about this morning when the Epstein thing first happened, when he died. And I'll plead ignorance.
Okay, that does make sense that Trump would answer like that while Netanyahu's sitting at the table. But I don't think in that press conference he was there. But he was definitely in the White House. Not to say that that is an excuse, but just trying to understand his mindset of what are we doing here. There's no excuse. There's no excuse. Richard said, so is it Israel that is constantly forcing this narrative, or is it Americans that have a vested interest in Israel? I would argue probably both. But what does that have to do with a New York Jew? What does that have to do with a New York Jew? I don't understand. Contact said they made Uncle Alex J cry. I can never forgive them for this. Never. Oh, he wasn't saying, okay, yeah, I mean, and that does make sense, but fucking sack up. You were willing to say to Zelensky what you need to say. You were willing to say to Putin what you're willing to say. But Netanyahu, and you're like, oh, okay, well, whatever you say. Fuck that shit.
Epstein thing first happened when he died. And I'll plead ignorance and lack of interest.
Wait, Richard. I'm completely with you on the issue of Israel's influence on America. What I don't understand is why, when we're talking about Israel, we talk about Jews. Because there's plenty of Jews elsewhere in the world that have nothing to do with Israel. So if you are saying, oh, once you see it, you can't unsee it, the rabbit hole goes so deep. I am asking you to give me that information. Why is it not just the government, and specifically anybody who is a Jew? Why? That does not make sense to me.
I was like distracted. There's a lot of stuff going on. I get a call from someone I know who I like, who's a true hardcore neocon, many of whom I liked personally, who's writing a book on Epstein. Two people I knew together wrote this book on Epstein. I don't want to name them. I don't want to be mean or anything. But they're like, can we come on your show? We've written a book on Epstein and this whole scandal. So I read the book, and it's very sophisticated. And it's like Epstein's super bad, but...
He said...
And it's very sophisticated.
It's very sophisticated. In the next sentence.
And it's like Epstein's super bad.
Super sophisticated.
But the Epstein story is really limited to Epstein, this bad guy who died. And there's no evidence it was part of anything bigger that had anything to do with other countries.
Yeah, I don't either. I blame Israel. And that's not the same thing. But people seem to conflate both. And I'm just trying to understand why.
And they come on my show and I interview them, and they're like, no, yeah, there's all this stuff, mysteries. We couldn't get to the bottom of it. But, Epstein's really, really bad. And looking back, I'm like, that was by design.
Yes.
Right. It was like, wow, we're exposed here, and we need to throw.
Does that mean you blame our government?
We need a Warren Commission, actually.
No, you're right. Yeah. Except a real one at this time.
It didn't work because... Vanity Fair, to its great credit.
Before we get into that, let's shout out Box with the $5. Thank you so very, very much. Getting us a little bit closer to that swole goal, guys. I am puny. Look, hey, wait. Look, a little bit of tricep coming in. You guys are helping. You guys are bulking me up. Let's get it done. 15 supers or a $50 total. And we might have another extra little treat from Morty later on if we do well. Thank you so very, very much. Fox says, what is going on with movies when you try to import them to China. Yeah, it's a wonder why in Captain America the big bads were the Japanese. The Japanese, not China, but the Japanese. Make it make sense. Thank you so very, very much, sir.
It didn't work because... Vanity Fair, to its great credit, wrote a couple of pieces, then they stopped covering it, I noticed. But they kind of got to the Wexner thing. Who's this Wexner guy?
Who is this?
And what ties do these guys have to foreign intel services?
Yes.
which were deep. I mean, I think Ehud Barak lived at Jeffrey Epstein's place off
He
Fifth
flew
Avenue.
on his plane 30 times, lived often at his townhouse in Manhattan.
Yes.
At one time, the largest residence in the history of New York City, transferred to him by deed by Leslie Wexner. For what purpose? We have no idea. He invested in Ehud Barak's defense intelligence startup. And I think the defense intelligence part there may be even as interesting as the fact that it's a former Israeli prime minister and former head of Israeli military intelligence. I mean, this is what I'm.
You gotta pay for the privilege, baby. You gotta pay for the privilege. Adam says our government is the dirtiest of them all. And I mean, it's hard to argue against that. Like, that doesn't mean that living in America is not the best place to live, but I mean, our government's done some shit.
Saying about the money is so important to the story because we already have, documented cases of CIA, Israeli, and others buying up private corporations which pose as, let's say, cybersecurity firms that sell to the government or other governments and use those as backdoors. So look, if you're Ehud Barak, you've probably met, some of the richest people on the planet. Why do you need, these investments from Jeffrey Epstein, of all people, a tax advisor to the super rich? What did Bill Gates get from his repeated involvement with Jeffrey Epstein?
Secrecy.
Why did Melinda Gates, divorce Bill Gates?
Because he was there and she found out what was really going down.
After years and of obvious knowledge of his philandering in the past, are we really to believe it's about philandering, from 20 years ago, which was well known apparently within Microsoft? No, it's because she probably started to get a little aware, or perhaps there was something else going on there as to the extent of what that relationship was.
Let's check in with our poll. Can this scandal destroy Trump's legacy? 66% of you said yes. 16% said no, and 16. So I guess that would be, 2 votes each? There is somebody out there who thinks it's not a scandal. There is no list. Okay, dude.
And, the fact is even from public reporting, we're told that Jeffrey Epstein was seen by Gates as the conduit to win the Nobel Peace Prize. How? For what purpose? How does he have all of these ends with the highest level of the intelligence or the scientific community? And then, of course, it doesn't take a genius to see the intertwinement between the scientific community, the academic research industrial complex, and the intelligence community. So
exactly what CT is saying, that Maxwell's sisters are also in the tech space. They were the founders of Magellan, the first internet search provider before Google. Now that is a blackmail ring, all in tech and hacking. It's all tied together, which again shows why there is a justification that we could see why they're doing this. What exactly what Sagar and myself are saying, that they're not trying to convince you of anything. They're not trying to convince you that there's no list. They're just putting that out there as a signal that, oh, we got you guys.
All of these pieces, this is the unfortunate part. And, even returning, like you said, to him being killed himself, him allegedly killing himself. Let's not forget Michael Baden, who I think is a very authoritative figure. He reviewed all of the documents, the autopsy, etc. He said, this is not a case of suicide.
I've talked to him about it.
Yes. And it's like, let's remember, he's one of the most, probably the most famous forensic,
pathologist.
Yeah, pathologist in America. And his
it's him or that other guy.
Research has been his diagnosis has been very important in a lot of other previous cases, which turned out to be true. And so when he looks at this, and we have that evidence, when we have the cover up here now at the government, I'm appalled, that this is happening at the highest level. But
Yep. Shout out to Bryson. Welcome to the party. So when Trump said desecrating, that was upset. I'm not sure the context. Tell us more. Welcome to the party. Adam said our government will use God, money, sex, violence, truth, justice, patriotic pride, lies, aliens, weather, war, dogma, or any damn thing it takes to do what it deems necessary. Yup. And I mean, to be fair, most governments will, but we have a lot more power and a lot more spending power. Maybe not a lot more money, but a lot more spending power. And that does not help.
Only conclusion is just to return it's just a signal to the court is don't worry about it. We've got you. It doesn't, the people don't matter in this case.
Man, I think this, for a bunch of reasons, it's so obvious. It is salacious. People have followed it for years. The president promised to reveal the truth about this. Pam Bondi, as you said, went on television, said we have the truth and we're going to give it to you.
Yes.
And But even this, so I don't want to make this a left-right thing. But I was saying, as a resident liberal, I can tell you part of the reason you don't hear cries for impeachment from the left is because nobody wants Vance to be president. That doesn't fucking make any sense. Y'all said, and I'm not specifically you, but y'all, the liberals, said that Trump was the worst thing ever. So even if you're getting the second worst thing ever, why would you not want the second worst thing ever if what you have is the worst thing ever? I understand why people on the right are not calling for, I mean, some are, but not calling for impeachment over this. But this just shows a lack of principles. It's not about, do you deserve to be punished? It's about what is good for me. What is good for me? And it's better for me if Trump is in office, because then we can just blame everything on Orange Man Bad. If Vance gets in and does the same shit, and people still are about it, then clearly that proves that MAGA was never a cult, and that Trump was never that bad. Liberals. But hey, thank you for the insight. Wagamite said, Trump's so-called legacy is parallel to other wannabe greats. One particular German comes to mind. All right, let's not go that far. CD said they impeached Trump multiple times when Pence was VP. By the way, impeachment doesn't remove you from office. Yeah, but it is implied. It's implied that if you want to impeach somebody, that you want to remove them. If to bring that into the fold, I could see a lot of liberals would want to impeach him but not remove him because of Vance. But it's just the swamp. I'm with all this, it's hard to really even take a such a strong principled stance on that. I mean, I stand behind what I said, but it's just all the same shit. It's all the same shit.
This Pam Bondi, as you said, on television, so we have the truth, and we're going to give it to you.
Yes.
I think this is a big deal. It's a really big deal. It's bigger. So. I hope so too, actually. So let's just assess this logically. They're covering up the DOJ, the current DOJ under Pam Bondi is covering up crimes, very serious crimes by their own description. Why are they doing that?
Yeah.
So there are really only two potential explanations that I can think of. Maybe you've got another. The first is that Trump is involved, that, Trump is on the list, that they've got tape of Trump doing something awful. I don't believe that for two reasons. One, I've talked to Trump about it a lot.
Thank you so much for hanging out. You have a good one. I mean, you can still watch without typing, but whatever you do.
And I know him. He's not that, for whatever his sins. I don't think he's that guy, actually. I don't think he likes creepy sex stuff. That's just my view. But more, I think, convincing.
Well, at least not creepy sex stuff with children.
Is that this is all information that the Biden administration had. And if there was evidence that Trump had been involved in illegal sexual activity, you think the people who made up Russiagate wouldn't have leaked it?
They definitely would have. And that's, I don't think that it is, I don't think that it is a matter of Trump realized he was implicated. That doesn't seem like the situation. I couldn't necessarily tell you why, but talk to Trump a lot, and I know him. Do you though?
That Trump had been involved in illegal sexual activity. You think the people who made up Russiagate wouldn't have leaked it?
Right.
Come on now. So the only other explanation I can think of, again, maybe you've got another, is that intel services are at the very center of this story, U.S. and Israeli, and they're being protected. I think that seems like the most plausible.
That's the most obvious. I have a history of this. There have been multiple documented cases of pedophilia inside of the CIA perpetrated by CIA officers, documented that in many of those, I believe over a dozen cases, this was a BuzzFeed news piece years back, where the CIA specifically did not want to prosecute those individuals in federal court.
I don't think that's what he's saying. I think that he is just saying that I didn't get that vibe from him. I think that's all that he means. Now, how far does that go? Not very far, but you get that vibe from Biden. So it's I don't know. Shout out to Jeff Pearson in the building. Welcome to the party. The cover up of a cover up of a cover up of blackmail of sex crimes. Unfortunately, very, very true. Box said both Sagar and Tucker have hand waved their involvement with PDF files in this show so far. What? What were they? What are you referring to? What were they involved in with pedos? I've not heard of this. Shout out to Ret in Action. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the party. Apparently, there is no Epstein client list. He trafficked nobody to nobody, but had to be, he was arrested, and Ghislaine was also arrested, but didn't happen.
Piece years back where the CIA specifically did not want to prosecute those individuals
Yeah, he doesn't even actually exist. He's just a myth.
in federal court for fear that they would reveal sources and methods if they were pulled into open court, and they basically just made it go away. The only time they actually prosecuted somebody for child pornography was whenever he'd already been prosecuted for mishandling classified information.
Well, when they want,
I get that. I'm asking what you're talking about with that. What is the situation that had with Sagar and pedos or Tucker and pedos? That's what I'm asking about. Shout out to Josie. Said shout out to Ghislaine Maxwell. Who? Why is she in jail? Why is she in jail? Just a woman. She's a woman. Lock her up. Just lock her up. Why not? Wake Up Mind said To Catch a Predator, White House edition. Yup. Pretty much.
Was whenever he'd already been prosecuted for mishandling classified information.
well, when they want to crush you, they put kitty porn in your computers. Why don't have a computer? Don't own one.
If you're an
That's
important
why.
person, you should be careful.
No
And
computer in my house.
This is
I don't like that notion. I can't not have computers. That's scary.
an important thing, though, is that we already have documented cases of them covering this up. I believe the CIA Inspector General, I forget the exact quote, but he said something along the lines of, you wouldn't even believe the amount of child porn, that I've seen while I'm on this job. I mean, these are depraved. Look, I mean, it's a large organization, a small percentage of the US, we can make that argument. I think there is like something pathological, kind of in the minds of the people who excel in this type of environment.
Of course, it's based on lying.
Yes.
And lying is the game.
Whoa. In the government, people are lying? I don't know about that, Tucker.
Who excel in this type of environment.
Of course, it's based on lying.
Yes.
And lying is the gateway drug to every other sin. Right? Of course.
I've seen so much CP, bro. Weird flex.
Of course, it's based on lying.
Yes.
And lying is the gateway drug to every other sin. Of course. And the veil of secrecy that protects CIA up to and including its budget, which we can't know, makes all kinds of really evil behavior possible. In fact, it inspires it.
Mm-hmm.
If you had the cloak of invisibility, would that improve or degrade your behavior?
Yes. Everyone knows.
Serious.
Everyone knows the answer to that.
No, of course, you'd be like, I'm invisible. At some point, you're going to have to go up and go like, like you couldn't.
So Boggs is saying both Sagar and Tucker have hand-waved their involvement with PDF files in this show so far. And said, Sagar said he does background checks of people he invites over. Tucker says he knows Trump well. I guess none of these guys have ever seen a pedo. I don't know what you're talking about, bro. What? Wait, are you're saying that because they know? Wait, what? Because he does background checks of people that maybe if you want to explain a little bit more, I have no idea what you're talking about.
What was the answer to that?
No, of course, you'd be like, I'm invisible. At some point, you're going to have to go up and go like, like you couldn't.
Well, and they see
doesn't make you a better person.
They see their own colleagues getting away with it, and it's a permission structure. And so, look, I mean, that's a small case, but it just shows us that it's obvious, and it's something that has been in multiple intelligence communities have been ensnared in this. Again, I highly recommend Daryl Cooper's episode on the entire Epstein saga because I didn't know about this case in Northern Ireland.
Am I allowed to listen to that?
Oh, right.
I was incredibly informed by Mark Levin that he was a.
Well, he's not an expert. He's not an expert. He's just evil.
Holocaust denier.
Oh, I mean, words are supposed to have meaning, And
can I ask you about the neocons who are? I mean, keep in mind that it was Jay Lefkowitz, who's Bill Kristol's lawyer, who represented the Weekly Standard when I worked there, who was an Epstein lawyer.
Yeah.
And so, where's Mark Levin on Epstein? I noticed that all these very voluble people who do not hesitate before imposing their opinions on the rest of us suddenly don't have very strong.
Where you at? Where you at? Silence is a weird thing at this moment.
Opinions about Epstein. What is that?
Every accusation is actually an admission. And
but why is Mark Levin covering for Epstein? That's weird.
That's a great question. And in particular, when he's going to
Because he's on the list.
Accuse you of being funded by the Qatari government. And
If only.
Right. That's what I mean about the accusation is the admission.
Qatari government.
The accusation, you know, they could concoct all these wild schemes about how Steve Witkoff or me or you or anybody else is funded by the state of Qatar. When in reality, I mean, as you know, it's like, you guys want to talk about foreign funding?
Well,
like, let's go. Let's take a look at your C3s and release all of the data.
Wild.
I would be happy to take a look at it for you.
Please. Yeah, because I ain't going to go through all that shit, but I think that it is important that we have it, and glad that we have people like Sagar who's willing to go through all of it. And yeah, let's do a little micro poll here. Do you think? Whoa, caps lock. Do you think? Oh my God, think Michael Jackson was a pedo? Just take the temperature of you guys here. So Bucks, where'd it go? God damn it. So both Sagar and Tucker know pedos, and they just tried to act like they didn't. They're complicit in Epstein because they know people who have. I'm gonna go with CT here.
And
like you probably know pedos. I don't know what pedos usually do, but I would guess that if you're a pedo, that you do your best to act like a normal person in society. So I think probably, and especially since we're talking about how prevalent of a problem this is, I would be surprised if any of us did not know any pedos. So I'm not like, am I complicit in the Epstein shit? Because I know somebody who might potentially be. I don't understand what you're getting at.
No, it's like, you guys want to talk about foreign funding? Well, like, let's go. Let's take a look at your C3s and release all of the data.
Wild.
I would be happy to take a look at it for you.
Especially Qatar. I found out last night at dinner.
Yes.
You went to high school in Qatar.
Yes, I did. Yeah, they love to use that one. I went to high school my last 2 years, American School of Doha. By the way, I don't think the Qatari government.
In what context? Was that before or after he was being blackmailed? We were just talking about Prince Andrew, and was it not you? You were the one who said that he had nothing to do with that, right? Why would MJ be different? Josie said, I'm afraid to say that knowing the names in the list is not worth the destruction and meltdown that can cause it can cause worldwide. That, unfortunately, is something to consider. Because what if it is 60% of the people involved in our government? Does that mean that we shouldn't prosecute them? Of course not. But let's take a minute to think about what does that actually mean? Wild. Great point. Wake Up Mind said, remember the OJ trial? Everyone knew he did it, even wrote a book about it, got locked up later for something else. Yeah, he stole stuff that was his, but somebody else had that sold on eBay. And he was like, no, that's my shit. And he stole it. Yep, true. Bryson said, I lean towards MJ being guilty. Josie said, Michael Jackson was 100% set up. I refer you to Candace Owens' report. Bingo. I think so too. I mean, I wouldn't, I wouldn't put my life or my reputation on it, but that's what I think. All right, let's dive right back in here. Well, I don't know who the fuck it was, but somebody said that, and oh, it doesn't work that way. I'm gonna try to bring that back. Later. I told you guys would eventually figure out who Chit is. Do it, lady.
I did. Yeah.
Okay. In fact, that warrants a side quest. I just put out this video today. Where is it? And since we're talking about Hollywood, it's somewhat relevant. You are welcome, and now you're 2 for 2. So I'm kind of piggybacking off. So this was in the larger context is talking about how the wokeness of Marvel and She-Hulk is just bad. of someone who replied to this comment, the comment saying that, you know, with all of the source material and then just the writing in general, that Disney and Marvel they're not good at writing female characters. And then someone else was saying that, you know, it's not just Disney and Marvel, it's all of Hollywood. The fact of the matter is that if you only put a woman on screen and contextualize it into, well, look how different she is from the men, and then only give her masculine qualities to be good at, then you're not really telling female stories. You're just putting a chick in it. It's the same thing with the race swapping stuff, where it's put a chick in it. Like, instead of telling stories about, you know, hey, shout out to Indie Bell. Welcome to the party. Yeah, not believable at all. Yeah. Back to it. I mean, I'm not black. I've never been black, but I can promise you that there's black-centric stories that are not, oh, look how bad white people are, and oh my goodness, the racism, I can't deal with it. This is Chet. If you know, you know. If you don't, you finna find out. Oh, look how bad white people are, and oh my goodness, the racism, I can't deal with the racism. That's not at all to discount the issues that women deal with in terms of trying to compare up to men in society, or the fact that there definitely are racist people out there. The point is that women are more than what men do to that woman. Black people are more than what white people do to that black person. And when you write stories like this, you're completely flattening the experience of what it is to be a woman, or what it is to be black, or whatever you're trying to do, into this one thing that always comes down to, oh, the other team is bigoted towards me. I can't think of anything off the top of my head, but I am certain that I've watched a female-led show that I was like, this is really good in that sense. Maybe it wasn't, you know, the greatest show ever, the greatest movie ever. I would probably remember it. But I mean that it was a female lead, and she was a feminine person who engaged with issues that most women, I would assume, or a lot of women, or whatever, that was the story. Not how can I become better than the men? Because it's always measured on what the men do. And so if you're not going to be a better man than a man. That's just not how that works. I mean, sure, if you have a story like that, then great. But to be the template for these female-led stories, it's pathetic and it's disheartening. And by that, I mean, obviously there are situations where a woman can do things that is typically masculine and they do it better than men. But that, as I said, that can't be the template for any female-led thing. And it's even more disheartening that the dumb people who can't think about, oh, there's a black, it must be good. Oh, there's a gay. Oh, there's a woman, it must inherently be good. And so anybody who doesn't like that is obviously bigoted. It's so ironic how those are the people that drive the conversation on, putting these things up on the pedestal that, oh, they're so amazing. And they're just not. And the implicit racism in that is that, oh, well, since it's a black person, oh, since it's a woman, this is as good as it can be. And that's bigotry, baby. If you don't think that Disney, Marvel, Hollywood, anybody could make a movie or a show that's led by a female who does female things, then what? Is it just that females are not that interesting to you? Or like, that's what I'm saying, is that you think in the first order, oh, they're putting a chick in it. Oh, they're putting a black guy in it. Oh, they're putting a gay in it. Like, okay, good. We want to have representation. But when you're superseding the strength of the story, then you're undercutting the value of that representation entirely. I can tell you as somebody who's not white and spends a lot of time on, let's say, communities that might be seen by the outside as inherently racist, the whole thing. Talk about Orange Man. TikTok does not like for you to say Trump. And guys, we've got 10 votes in and we are stuck at 50-50. Do you think Michael Jackson was a pedo? If you did not vote, please break the tie. You would think that I would get a lot of that racism directed towards me because it's like, oh yeah, we like you, but you know, this would be you guys. You're a brown guy. And that definitely does happen sometimes. But it is so rare. It is so rare. It is always the people who have the type of mindset that I was just making fun of that think that way and think that every little thing that is said that could be potentially misconstrued as bigotry, that no, that's it. They're being racist. And it's like, bro, like we don't even think about race like that. The only reason that it comes up is because y'all be talking about it so much. I could probably count on one hand the amount of times that I've had a conversation with somebody who made my skin color the primary factor of what we're talking about. It just doesn't happen. It's the bigotry of low expectations. Oh, black people aren't interesting enough, so we have to make them, we have to race swap and put a black guy in this great story about a white person. Oh, women aren't interesting, so let's just make a guy type character, but we'll cast a female in it. No, no thank you. And so I would just caution you guys to watch out for that type of thinking where it boxes you into, you must like this thing because of a skin color, because of identity, because of who this person is, rather than, is the story good? That is how movies, TV shows, books, anything, any kind of storytelling, that should be the meritocratic measurement. Is it good?
This dude's spitting.
Are you enjoying it? Is it well written? Does what's happening make sense? Basic stuff. Instead of counting your token, okay, we got a black guy, we got a woman in there, we got a trans, we got a this. Okay, it must be good then. That is dumb. That is very, very dumb. If you think that way, I think you're dumb.
There we go. Shout out to Chit, and shout out to all the people who think that being racist is the opposite of being racist, and that not being racist is being racist. Shout out to Equality and Deference, because vagina over on Rumble said liked and shared. Thank you, thank you, thank you so very, very much. Again, you guys know how much that stuff really helps. And again, it doesn't even matter if you think that anybody's going to click on the link that you share. Just by you telling YouTube, I want other people to see it, they will show it to other people. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Said, who's that skinny little guy? You guys got to bulk me up. I said Thomas Sowell came up with the phrase "the soft bigotry of low expectations." Right? I don't know, but I would not be surprised. It's cool to have broads around as long as they are making sandwiches and keeping quiet. Welcome to the party, Equality. So I've never been to India, and my parents were not born in India, but my ancestry, my dad's side is mostly Indian, and my mom's side is mostly Chinese with a little bit of Japanese. But I have I think it's like 3 or 4 generations in Jamaica on my mom's side and Trinidad and Tobago on my dad's side. So we are West Indian, but yes, my ancestors are from India. Where we at? Yeah, and see, that's what I say, guys. If you're coming in late, you know, the best thing is to just jump in at the live and see what you can pick up. And if you want to go back and watch the replay later, then you're good. Because if you try to type when you're back, it ain't gonna match. Glad to see you live. CT said, in the great words of Shane Gillis, why do we keep making slavery movies? No one likes those. Ask my black friends, they don't like them either. Well, I mean, 12 Years a Slave was an interesting thing, but if that, think about if 12 Years a Slave existed in a media landscape where not everything was about black and white racism, that would be impactful. But because it's such a trite, overused trope, then it just doesn't hit like that. It just doesn't hit. And our poll, do you think Michael Jackson was a pedo? 54% of you said no. You know what's really good. All right, let's dive back in here. Welcome to the party. Anybody who just joined us, as always, please hit that like button. And of course, subscribe. We are live every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 8 p.m. Eastern, and sometimes whenever I feel like it.
Yeah, they love to use that one. I went to high school, my last year, American
Great movie.
School of Doha. By the way, I don't think the Qatari government likes me very much because I've talked quite a bit about how a lot of migrant laborers are abused there. But of course, they still find that's tenuous connection as some sort of, admission. Supposedly I'm funded. The only people who fund me are my business and the people who are premium subscribers, which is great. And that's part of the reason I can speak the way that I am. I literally dare them to disclose their donors and those ties to the Israeli government and the Israel lobby. I dare them to do it, and they never will, or any of the other foreign government.
They never will. How old is that joke about politicians should wear the NASCAR jackets? Never gonna happen.
That directly prop them up.
And what does a Native American look like?
And this brings us to Epstein. Why, the Leslie Wexner Foundation under Jeffrey Epstein paid Ehud Barak $2.3 million to write 2 papers. I believe he did not even finish the second one. This is a nonprofit funnel, of money.
Really?
What's going on with that?
Can I get that gig?
Yeah, that sounds like a great gig. For anybody out there who's struggling with their bills, money is easy, okay? Whenever you're willing to engage in a lot of very sketchy behavior. And this is a pattern I've noticed all across Washington, is that they ignore strategically the Epstein story because it's inconvenient. And it's not even really inconvenient, I think.
Well, anything that's inconvenient
This is just the most inconvenient thing.
It's just so deeply enmeshed here. And I just bring it back to Alex Acosta. He told us the truth once, which was, or not us, he told them the truth once in sworn testimony. He belonged to intelligence. And we've never, I mean, with Maxwell, who we have all of these documented ties to Mossad and to the intelligence community and all of these sketchy dealings. And then his daughter.
In case you didn't know, I am officially DEI certified.
Working with Epstein. We have the Wexner Foundation, which we know is highly involved in Zionist interests here in the United States of America. We have Epstein as well, who's been linked to some of these organizations, or at least through funneling money via the Wexner Foundation. We know about his past, with money laundering. For what purpose? That is the crux of the intelligence community's ability to move things around and to pay for extremely off the books activity. It traces back to the lying, as you said. And that's part of why we can't have the truth around.
Why can't we have a country that is sovereign, that can make its own decisions? And
nice.
We could. They just don't want that, as we just saw. There was an opportunity to stand up to Netanyahu and just, nah.
And restore health to our international relations, where we have allies, hopefully many more than we currently have. We don't have enough allies, in my opinion.
The fucking Amish, man. When are we going to do something about the fucking Amish? That's the real problem.
Hardly in isolation.
Or we have the wrong allies.
Or the wrong allies, but the number is dwindling. Mm-hmm. So it's right. Only a couple real allies left, and I'm not even sure they're allies, but whatever. But why couldn't you have at least
with allies like that? Who needs enemies?
Conceptually, a situation where you act in your own interest, and to the extent that other countries share that interest, there's a union set of interests. You ally with them, transactionally. In other words, we're both for that. We both want to build an oil pipeline somewhere. We both want this shipping lane open, or we're both mad at this other country. It's like, why couldn't you have that?
It's so difficult. I mean, that's why I mentioned Israel previously in the example. I think it's really important. I mean, if you were to listen to Fox News, you would think that this is the greatest juggernaut economy in the history of the world. I mean, I had ChatGPT do a mathematical analysis, and I said, give me 5 countries that best resemble the U.S.-Israel trading relationship. And it was Singapore, countries like Singapore, Chile, and Switzerland. And I love those countries.
I do too.
But I don't want to be them.
I love those places.
Yeah.
Frankly, I think Singapore has a better, if we're talking about grand strategy and all of that, of the list, that would put that one higher than any of the rest. But we don't talk about this in the terms of actual transaction, because then people might actually start to ask a lot of questions. I mean, I remember this with Ukraine. I was like, we barely do bilateral trade with this country. It's one of the most insignificant countries in all of Europe to the U.S. trading relationship. We can talk at, the way they blow up the Israel relationships. Israel does our dirty work for us in the U.S. And I'm like, well,
or do we do their dirty work for them?
Are they doing our dirty work, or are they doing their own dirty work and then basically passing the buck and the bill?
Well, why would
onto
we
the United
outsource
States?
that anyway?
Exactly. And so then
9 hours. 9 hours. I'm pretty sure I did mine. I streamed that, right? I think I did that live, and it took like 2 or 3 hours or something like that. Damn. Well, maybe you're more DEI certified than me.
It comes down to all these questions, like you said, of national interest. And even in the exception that we make for this country is just so unbelievable. I mean, let's take the case of Jonathan Pollard, who's one of the biggest traitors in the history of the United States for passing classified information on to the Israeli government. They were caught out in the open. Prime Minister Netanyahu used to visit our soil and actively campaign and urge our presidents of the United States to pardon Jonathan Pollard for betraying our country to his country.
Do you have any idea what they did with that classified information, those secrets?
Well,
shredded it.
I actually have no idea, but what I do remember,
they shredded it
to the Soviet Union.
Oh, that's right.
And
that's worse.
This was in the 80s during the Cold War.
It was 1985.
It was 85. I remember it well. I lived in Washington. My dad worked for the government. And that was a very serious, whatever you think of the Cold War in retrospect. But at the time, the full focus of the U.S. government was in opposition to the Soviets. And the Israelis gave a lot of that classified information from the U.S. Navy to the Soviet government in exchange for allowing refuseniks, Jewish Soviet citizens, to move to Israel, which I'm totally for. I mean, I'm glad that they got out. I'm glad that they got out of the Soviet Union and made it to Israel. That's great. But they took our secrets and gave them to our main enemy, our really only global enemy. What?
Yeah. And then have the audacity.
Well, then how can you have a relationship after that?
Yeah, and have the audacity.
Because we are cucked. Because it is an abusive, toxic relationship. That's why.
Capacity to come to our country and to lobby in seriousness to the presidents to visit this man in prison, to grant him Israeli citizenship, to grant him basically the moment he's on parole, he immediately moves to Israel. He received a hero's welcome and it remains there to this day. I mean, we would not allow that for
This is not a healthy relationship.
This is not a healthy relationship. Exactly.
And
I told you, it's toxic.
That's an important thing for Americans to understand.
One of the many tragic byproducts is I think it's destroying the right.
Mm-hmm.
And I say that as someone who's been on the right my whole life. And my whole life, I've been on the right. And I really sort of believe in the basic ideas. And I'm not a liberal. That's for sure. In fact,
But have you been?
I'm way more conservative than
Look how hungry he is. Let's throw 99 cents to get more to your treat.
Mark Levin. That's for sure. But it's like the problem is the promise of MAGA is America first. And the contradiction is just too obvious. You can't, if you're Joe Biden and you're, senile and it's being run by a bunch of sinister, shadowy figures in the background and you do something like this, it's like, of course they're doing it. But if you get up and you say, we're going to restore greatness to this country, we're going to do it by putting our own interests first. That's what every country does.
And then you don't, people are going to be mad.
That's kind of natural. It's organic. And then you put the interest of a country of 9 million people above your own in a way that's just insulting.
Yes.
People can't deal with that. Like their brains start to explode. And I think this.
So, Richard, I guess we can't explain why all of this has to do with Jewish people as opposed to the Israeli government. Because I think that is the biggest thing that turns people away from understanding the fact that Israel has too much control over our government is people talking about the Jews. It's a big turnoff. If you can explain it, then I'm here for it. I am interested in truth. And if it is Jewish people like the guy who sells bagels in New York City, then I would like to know that. But nobody ever seems to be able to make that connection. It's always, well, there's a bunch of Jewish people in Israel. I know it's more complicated, but that's all that's all I ever get. That's all we ever get. Hey, shout out to Arrow again with the $2. No question, no comment, just pure love of the game. Thank you so very much. We gotta bulk me up. That's 4 out of 15 and 19 out of 50, guys. We are getting there. Thank you so very much.
Just insulting.
Yes.
People can't deal with that. Like their brains start to explode. And I think this is blowing up the coalition. I hope I'm wrong. I support the coalition. All these people are like, you're not MAGA. Really? Did you campaign for Trump?
Right.
I mean, please.
That's right. I mean,
please, I'm liberal. Okay.
What's happening is that Trump is becoming less MAGA. And I know a lot of people are going to be like, hold up. Trump is MAGA. No, the fuck, he's not. And I had to look this up before because I specifically wanted to have an example or an analogy as to there was a time when we absolutely needed Trump. That was 2016. We needed Trump. After the Biden stuff, we definitely, it was definitely a good thing to bring Trump back in. But the movement had grown beyond that. And so while I proudly voted for Trump, if there was somebody who didn't induce TDS, who didn't make people's brains explode, that was running, that actually had MAGA, America First values, like a Vivek Ramaswamy, I would have preferred that because TDS exists. And so there is, I couldn't think of what it was. I thought it was something to do with pole vaulting or something, but it was the 4-minute mile, running a 4-minute mile. And so I'll read here. For decades, it was believed that no human could run a mile in under 4 minutes. It was considered a physical barrier. Some experts even claimed the human body wasn't capable of that feat. But then, May 6, 1954, Roger Bannister broke that mental and physical barrier by running a mile in 3 minutes and 59.4 seconds. The incredible part, once Bannister did it, many others started breaking the barrier shortly afterward. Some within weeks or months, the mental block was shattered. It wasn't that humans suddenly became faster. It was they believed it was possible. Before Trump, we didn't know that having someone like Trump was possible. Now, we do. And so it doesn't have to be him. So Trump is less MAGA than you and me. Crazy how that works, right?
But I worry about that. I feel like that's happening.
I think you should be worried about it. And well, look, we can parse these things at a variety of levels. So you said MAGA, and I think that's important. I think the vast majority of people who are self-identified as MAGA, they supported.
TDS is Trump derangement syndrome, and the fact that we see the liberals that can't even see his face or hear his voice, but they'll be like, "Oh my God!" Trump derangement syndrome. I'm surprised you've never heard that before.
Said MAGA, and I think that's important. I think the vast majority of people who are self-identified as MAGA, they supported the Iran strikes, and they generally support President Trump, and they have a lot of trust in the man.
They do.
What I keep trying to tell people is people are saying, oh, there's a split in the MAGA, but you said it correctly, the right. And I would look at the right as the coalition that delivered Donald Trump the first popular vote victory since 2004. The margin of anti-war support for Donald Trump is his entire electoral margin in the state of Michigan. The entire electoral margin in the state of Michigan. And I think that his ability to win Michigan twice now, in three races, is pretty damn important for looking at the so-called realignment of the white working class and of this new coalition. Let's also look, I actually, on our show, our producer went to the Bronx, AOC's district.
The Bronx, there's a bunch of Zetos there that are directly implicated in what Israel is. Oh, no, they're not. Okay, anyway. Quality over on Rumble said when Benjamin Netanyahu can come to the U.S. Congress and get a standing ovation repeatedly from our representatives, irrespective of party, this situation be fuckified. Yep. I don't just like Vivek because he's Indian. You're racist.
And interviewed people who were AOC Trump voters, and the number one reason that we got from them was war. It was the promise to bring an end to the war, both in Israel and Gaza and in Ukraine, because there is something visceral. Let's say that you live in the Bronx and you're having problems in your neighborhood, and watching these countries get tens of billions of dollars. 3 carrier strike groups of the United States of America were present in the Middle East, specifically to back up Israel during the 12-day war. You asked Ted Cruz.
12-day war.
It's a very important question. Do you know how much that costs? I looked it up. It's actually public information. It's about I believe it's like $250 million per group per month for deployment. That was just for the deployment. The April operation.
That's separate from weapons fired.
That's separate from all the. And by the way, that number, which they will never release, is in the billions of dollars. And then let's take opportunity cost.
I wouldn't be surprised if it was in the trillions.
We basically used up, a massive stockpile of U.S. interceptors, which are critical for our bases in Qatar or for everywhere else around the world, on behalf of this foreign nation, which we were told repeatedly the reason we give it $3.3 billion a year was so they can defend themselves. Well, if they can defend themselves, then why did it take the full deployment of the U.S. empire to basically shield it? And even then, in terms of its shielding, I'm sure you felt the same way. I've been to Tel Aviv, watching that city get.
Oh, he's been. He has been. But yeah, that was the story early on in the 12-day war, that Israel can take care of it themselves, but we're gonna help because never got a reason for that.
Rocked by rockets was a shocking experience. That was not what we were. I hated it too. I've been there. It's a beautiful city. The people there are great, and to watch.
But they're
their cities. That's some London level, photography from World War II. And so the fact that happened, and that also, by the way, we just increased the defense budget to $1 trillion. For what purpose? I can't exactly tell you, because even with that money all spent in the past, it doesn't seem that we're all that competent at building interceptors, at ammunition. Russia, I believe, has a defense budget like more than 1/4 or something like that of the United States. It produces like more ammunition than all of NATO combined. How do these things happen, right? So we have rife for corruption. The point is that MAGA and the right, let's say the non-MAGA right, people who voted for Donald Trump in
the neocons, the rhinos,
good faith on a variety of good promises. I think for those people, and especially younger Americans, there is a visceral disgust at watching the level of tension and obsession over this foreign nation. And it's particularly galling because we have people like Ted Cruz who say, why are you obsessed with Israel? And it's like,
why are you talking about this guy? What you're still talking about this creep? Cope and gaslighting. CT. Well, yeah, Maverick said Ivanka serves Israel. If Josie's bringing up Ivanka for president, if you think that Trump is, I don't know why you would think that this Trump is going to be different than that Trump. They are a unit. So you said, remember 3 weeks ago when Pakistan and India fought for like a week. A week-long missile fight is better than a 20-year war. Agreed, but not having a missile fight is better than a week-long missile fight. Just saying.
Like, what did I just describe here about
calling you
call
me an anti-Semite like 10 minutes in?
It's disgusting.
It's so exactly what liberals do.
Mm-hmm.
It's so exactly the woke right. I mean, that it's like
The woke right, here we go. Let's see if they've got the right definition.
it's bewildering and it's dishonesty. I'm not engaging. I'm
Yes.
off the internet. I give up. But but it's so revealing. It's like, wait, I just voted against this. I voted against not just the argument, but the style of argument of the left, which is to not engage with the points that you make at all, to glide past them, ignore them. And instead of,
like the woke people do.
Hack your motive and your character. You're
like the woke people do.
a racist. You're getting paid by Russia. We moved seamlessly from that to like Mark Levin, who saying the exact same thing. You're a racist. You're anti-Semite. You're hanging around with Holocaust deniers. What?
The woke right.
You're paid by a foreign country, Qatar, which I still find hilarious. For the record, of course, I've never taken $1 from anybody. I don't even have investors, but whatever. But it's go to motive.
Yeah, you don't need him. He's fucking filthy rich.
If rather than engage with what you said.
I saw this all coming a mile away.
You did?
Yeah, because
God, I'm heartbroken to see it.
Well, you should be.
This is why you've been successful, because you're smart.
Well,
yeah, I did not see it coming, and it feels kind of stupid in hindsight, but it obviously makes sense that we were all in the anti-wokeness boat, and that was against the trans stuff and the racist stuff and the wham and stuff. But just because some people were against that doesn't necessarily mean that they were against it on principle. They're against it because they didn't like it. And so now, when there's other things that they do like, then they have no issues, getting involved in that type of woke thinking.
I mean, I've taken it's cost me a lot of personal problems. I can tell you that. But
hey, shout out to Matthew King. Welcome to the party. I don't know if you heard, but there's no Epstein client list.
I remember, I believe it was right after October 7th, Bill Ackman and a lot of other prominent Wall Street financiers who are very pro-Israel.
Bill Ackman's done a lot for our economy. Sorry.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that. I'm
talking down publicly traded corporations and then shorting them. That's
Herbalife.
It's capitalism.
Right. And so exactly. So he's saying they use all that woke shit as a smoke screen for the real stuff. It's a distraction, divide and conquer playbook. And there's the woke right are the people who just trust that Israel is our buddy and what's good for Israel is good for America, like a Ben Shapiro. And they are not willing to engage with the fact that that is not true. Clearly, that is not true. But they won't engage with it. And if you have anything to say about it, oh, well, you're anti-Semitic. Shut up.
How are investors doing? I would just ask people to go and take a look at those books, but whatever. Let's take a look at Ackman.
He's a very patriotic guy. He's done a lot for this country, so keep that in mind.
Okay. Well, this patriotic American and a lot of these other pro-Israel billionaires were literally compiling lists of students who were protesting the Israeli government's response to October 7th. Many of these were American citizens, compiling lists and basically saying, don't ever hire these people and circulating them around the highest levels of Wall Street finance, of technology, getting people fired from law firms that they had
just because they criticized America?
Because they criticized Israel.
What about America?
Yes, that's an important question. But what I noticed, and I said this at the time, is for all of these people, it is now obvious that they never were really opposed to DEI.
Oh, of course
what
not.
They wanted,
they paid for it.
Yes, yeah, that's a great point. What they wanted was they want their interest group, Zionism in particular, in support of the Israeli government,
to have power. It's always about power or money. And usually, money's about power.
To be included within the DEI regime. And that was a very important point because eventually that became fused somehow with MAGA. And that's how explains a huge level of a lot of very high profile, very, very rich people in technology industry and in finance who supported the Trump administration. And the promise effectively that has now been delivered is that by using this newly crafted like DEI style regime, which basically uses the state and the police state as effectively a force for a political party in Israel. That's another.
I think probably Ben Shapiro is the person who there. Well, just talking about right-wing politics is a very broad category. I think Ben Shapiro is probably the person who has the greatest difference, in my opinion, from when I first learned about him to where we are now. Like Ben Shapiro was never like the best in my eyes, but you know, the Ben Shapiro, you know, slams college students. I mean, who didn't fucking love that shit? And look where we are. What happened? Didn't see it coming. Sagar saw it coming, but I did not see it coming.
Another thing that I love when you say this as well. It's not about even Israel at this point. We're talking about Likudnik interests in the United States
A guy who
of
got
America.
30% of the vote.
30% of the vote, who is under investigation for taking money from who? Qatar, right? It's amazing. He's literally fired the head of his own FBI for bribery allegations from Qatari money in his government, and has the gall to have his, interest groups here in America accuse people like you and me of taking money from the very same government that he's been credibly accused of taking. Now, listen, I don't know. Trump says he's innocent or whatever. I
Pretty
have a hard time
cheeky. Pretty
believing
cheeky,
it.
I would say.
It is.
Yep. But the difference is that Charlie Kirk is more on the level of like, hey, I'm more of a peer, where Ben Shapiro is me like, well, I'm better than you. What happened?
Now, listen, I don't know. Trump says he's innocent or whatever. I
Pretty
have a hard time
cheeky. Pretty
believing
cheeky,
it.
I would say.
Matthew said, CT, I believe you're right. The island was a classic honeypot. Get powerful people in a compromising position and you own them, especially when kids are involved. They did it with hookers too. It's not a new playbook, not by a long shot.
It is cheeky. And to bring it back, I guess, is what you said is about America. And the fact is that we're watching the weaponization, largely backed by a lot of these people who have hijacked, I think, a large part of the American. Maybe they didn't hijack it. Maybe I'm the idiot, right? I could be the idiot for believing.
That's what I'm saying. Maybe all of what's going on was always the plan, and they were just trying to figure out, okay, how do we get far enough to, kick the can down the road to where people, it gets too confusing and we can just do whatever the fuck we want. Seems like a good plan, because if so, it's fucking working, unfortunately.
Leaving some of these things. Why did I read Christopher Caldwell's book and listen to Christopher Rufo and others about the civil rights regime and all of this criticism correctly of Ibrahim Kendi and the Department of Anti-Racism and the enshrinement of DEI in the Civil Rights Administration?
The only solution to past discrimination is present and future discrimination. That's Ibram X. Kendi. That is the CRT DEI bullshit. We must be racist towards white people because different white people at a different time were racist to different black people. That'll make no sense.
Just to watch it get turned around and again, not even be used against people who are anti-American, but people who are supporting a boycott of a foreign nation, a country here now where students could burn an American flag and be fine. But if they protest Israel, could be liable for either deportation if they're not a citizen or denied federal grant funding. The current Trump administration is suing using the Civil Rights Title VI of the Civil Rights Act, Harvard University for not protecting Jewish students under the indifferent standard. Now, that same standard was used for some of the worst excesses in the 1970s and others of the civil rights. These are things we're supposed to be against. This is DEI, run amok. And yet we're watching this happen in our own government. And I don't see, there's so many people, Ben Shapiro.
There are a lot of bias against Jewish students at Harvard.
There we go. Ben Shapiro, top of the list of who the fuck are you these days? Who the fuck are you?
Own government. And I don't see, there's so many people, Ben Shapiro.
There are a lot of bias against Jewish students at Harvard.
Oh, no.
Underrepresented.
Not last time I checked.
I guess what I object to is lying, of course, above all, but also I object to these kinds of identity politics. Like, I thought the whole point was we're Americans by citizenship.
Yeah.
Yup. Otherwise, you're woke.
Citizenship matters, as it did in Rome. I mean, it did. Paul's on trial in Rome and he's like, hey, I'm a Roman citizen. They're like, whoa, they back right off because that really meant something.
And should be.
It should mean something, I think. And they're continuing in this weird leftist frame where certain people.
It's not leftist. It's just woke. It's not leftist. The positions that they are talking about are not in agreement with the left. I mean, sometimes there might be overlap, but it's not leftist positions. It's woke ideology. It's woke mentality. They are not the same thing.
They're continuing in this weird leftist frame where certain people have more rights than other people.
That's right. And that's what we're watching.
You know, like the woke do. Shout out to Mom Tag with the $1 make you holla. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So very, very much. Of course, a treat for Morty. And guys, that is 5 out of 15, guys. $1.99 counts. We are getting there. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So very, very much, sir. Oh, and again. Oh my goodness. Boom, baby. All right, let me get on this banner before I lose count. So that's now 6 out of 15 and 21 out of 50. Guys, we are getting close. Thank you. So very, very much appreciated.
Leftist frame where certain people have more rights than other people.
That's right. And that's what we're watching.
I just couldn't
wokeness.
Object to that more.
And every American should. And look, you may not like these people. I probably wouldn't get along with a lot of these people.
No.
But let's sit here and talk about Harvard.
He's like, no.
And look, you may not like these people. I probably wouldn't get along with a lot of these people.
No.
But let's sit here and talk about Harvard, like you said. I mean, to watch, literally, it's been 10 years ago. I was sitting with my friends in the Daily Caller office, which you were very kind to hire me into, and we were watching Ben Shapiro humiliate Trigglypuff, right? We were watching leftist students get triggered and cry when Ben Shapiro would visit campus. And
Trigglypuff.
we thought it was hilarious.
Yeah.
10 years later, I watched students literally crying at a podium with the House of Representatives Speaker Mike Johnson next to them, talking about how I didn't feel safe while I was on campus. And it's like, well, why didn't you feel safe? Because people were shouting slogans of, again, protesting a foreign government. Now that's
Shapiro's like, oh my God, we cannot have that happening in America. Okay? If anybody says anything bad about Israel, they should go straight to jail.
actually a lot more about the psychology of you. But regardless, I mean, did we not live through a decade of snowflake and fuck your feelings? Because I was there for that. And I'm not going to sit here and watch people who made millions of dollars, Shapiro and Dave Rubin and all these other people, making fun of leftist students, only to co-opt the same level of identity politics. And like you said,
the woke right
about Harvard, okay? Like, this is important. What is the problem with Harvard? To me, the problem of Harvard is it took our most elite institution. Harvard is, the whole Ivy League, our most elite students, it crippled them with debt, and 41% of graduates now work in finance, consulting, and tech.
I mean, that's all colleges, but Harvard is especially bad because they're racist.
Okay, some of the worst industries that are directly extractive of the American consumer.
Well, not if you're not a fucking citizen. If you're not a fucking citizen and you're rioting with a Mexican flag, you can get the fuck out of my country.
Basically getting rich on their backs, addicting them to crippling financial products, technology, I don't even know what a lot of people in consulting do. Apparently they make a lot of money.
Hey, I mean, we definitely want to realize that other people have issues. Many people have issues bigger than our own. But let's not pretend that getting stung by a wasp and stubbing your toe is not a unpleasant experience.
Doing it, is that a productive industry for our country?
No.
And then Harvard University admitted the same, actually less students in the class of 2023 than it did in 1981. The US population has grown 110 million since that point. Now, why do they do that? It's for ultra exclusivity. It's to jack up, prices for their tuition. So
they admitted fewer students than in 81?
Than in 81. And the US population has grown 110 million since that point.
Wait, less than 80, whoa, what? Less than 81 people?
Then it did. And then Harvard University admitted the same, actually less students in the class of 2023 than it did in 1981. The US
in 1981. I was like, they only admitted 81 students?
Population has grown 110 million since that point. Now, why do they do that? It's for ultra exclusivity. It's to jack up, prices for their tuition. So
they admitted fewer students than in 81?
Than in 81. And the US population has grown 110 million since that point.
Has their administrative staff grown?
Oh, of course. And but actually, you're not even asking the right question. What about their endowment fund? They're basically a private equity firm with a small education department. And they lobby against the endowment tax through Congress. The endowment tax says, hey, increase your student body size relative to your endowment, and you don't have to pay any tax. But they don't do that because it's all about artificial constraints, saddling these kids up with debt, basically taking the best and brightest of the United States of America and turning them into cogs of of managerial capitalism.
So you can see there a clear distinction of, well, you can have the money or you can have the power. And what did they choose? The power.
That is not the Harvard University of the early, let's say, the World War II period. That is not the MIT. They're all doing the same thing. Those universities were our crown jewel and got government money from them so that they could set up and go work in industries that were productive and beneficial to our country. That's my current critique of Harvard. I think that's one most Americans would agree with. I think that's my critique of higher education in general. It's not the Middle Eastern Studies Department, okay? It's not suing them under the Civil Rights Act. And to watch this weaponization right now, by Pam Bondi.
Such a lie.
It is a lie.
I mean, if you really want to play like the demographics game and who's getting shafted and like, well, who gets into Harvard actually?
Yeah, that's right. Let's take a look.
Let's see the numbers. And
The Asian. Ding, 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 ding.
does that reflect the U.S. population?
No.
In fact, let's get even radical on the subject. Let's measure it against IQ tests.
Yeah.
No,
right.
no, I'm serious.
Yeah.
It's not- you can say, well,
Quality's got to head out. Thank you, thank you, thank you so very, very much for being here. Are you leaving too, Ty? I thought you were already leaving. But either way, thank you for stopping by.
oh, the American population is not all qualified to go to Harvard. Okay, great. So how about let's use SAT scores as a proxy for IQ. Is Harvard letting in the smartest people?
No. In fact, there is a concerted effort right now to drop or abandon SAT or any other quantitative measure, specifically, to enshrine more of this DEI style regime.
So who's actually getting discriminated against? Here?
Exactly.
Right.
And so then
it's too much though. Like I don't even want to have that conversation. I know the answer because I know the numbers, which I'm not going to
Poor white people.
repeat here. But because I don't want to add to the identity politics stuff because I think it's a dead end.
That's not what
I agree. But if we're going to have that conversation, it's poor white people.
we're about.
I don't want to be about
Is
that.
we want to live in a more equitable
Right.
country.
They're
That's
pushing
it.
us toward it.
Yeah.
But the problem is when you lie that aggressively and you use my government to do it and all of its armed institutions to do it, then you force me. You're making people radical with the stuff.
Yes, and they should be. I mean,
I don't want radicalism, but they're forcing when the Congress passes 22 anti-Semitism resolutions in the last few years, and there's still a lot of bias in America,
There's no fucking way, Box. There's no fucking way. There's no way. You're fucking with me, right? You're fucking with me. If you know, you know.
And there's still a lot of problems in America that are totally unaddressed, and they're getting worse. You turn people radical. I'm worried about that.
one of those resolutions they passed through the House actually conflated
Say more on this. What do you mean?
anti-Semitism with anti-Zionism, which is
Wait, yeah, this is kind of my issue, right? Or the conflation between hating Israel, the country and the government, versus hating the people that live there or people that don't live there.
one of those resolutions they passed through the House actually conflated anti-Semitism with anti-Zionism, which is, they're literally saying it is anti-Semitic, as in
it's a crime to criticize a foreign
country, a foreign country, or even an
That's woke bullshit.
ideology which believes in the existence
Why are they doing
of
this?
a foreign country.
Why are they doing this?
Well,
Because they're woke. It doesn't go deeper than that. Wokeness is a very superficial mentality for stupid people. They don't know how to think any better. This is the best that they can do, is be woke.
I mean, look,
it's bonkers, man. It's bonkers.
It's beyond bonkers, and I wish money were the answer. I'm not saying it isn't just a critical part of it. It is a part of just this propagandistic campaign to convince that this is our greatest ally, that actually we would die before we would let any of them die. And a lot of it is enshrined, unfortunately, in like a bastardization of Christian and rabbinical theology, as Ted Cruz revealed. I mean, actually, what really revealed to me was he didn't even really know what he was saying.
So CT said Sagar's Democrat is showing now. He said, go back a minute. Tucker's saying he's against radicalizing, and Sagar says radicalization is needed when talking about Harvard. Might have misheard him. No, that's what he said. But what is I make the connection between that and being a Democrat. I'm just not understand. I'm not saying you're wrong. I just don't understand what you're saying.
as Ted Cruz revealed. I mean, actually, what really revealed to me was he didn't even really know what he was saying, what he was quoting.
No idea.
But he was taught.
He didn't know what book it was in.
Nope. Somebody who went to a private 4-year university with small class sizes and everything. It was still bullshit. I can't imagine. Like all my friends that went to Rutgers that had like a 300-person lecture hall classes, like they didn't fucking learn anything. There was a thing where at Rutgers where because the class sizes were so big that you would have a little clicker thingy, and then they would start the class with a multiple choice question, and they check attendance by you clicking the button. They just gave the clicker to their friends. And it's like one person goes per month. And you just click on all the buttons. There's no fucking way that at a public university, most people are getting a good education. I cannot believe that. Tucker, know what he said? Again, say more. Both of you, say more. Boys only schools. That's not a sentence.
Right. But that's a legitimate belief. I mean,
it's in the Bible.
Right. That's how we end up with Brian Mast wearing the uniform of a foreign country in my Congress. And that's what offends me more than anything is the only uniform, in my opinion, that a United States Congress person should ever wear is that of the United States of America.
Well, yeah. And I would say to the, to MAGA voters,
the woke ones.
This is the program we voted for, the one that puts our country where we.
Okay, I thought he was going to say no. So not just the woke ones, everybody in MAGA.
To MAGA voters, this is the program we voted for, the one that puts our country where we were born at the center of the conversation, at the top of the priority list.
Yeah.
So those are the rules. So anyway, where does this go? I'm worried that the contradictions are too obvious, the lies are too transparent. This is too insulting. I can't even deal with it.
I agree. What is the next step? What is the next step in getting people to stop caring about Epstein? The only thing you can do is sacrifice the little bit of trust in these institutions that is left to cover it up.
I feel like I'm the least radical person I know. I'm happy to not talk about certain subjects just so we can all get along. I'm a WASP in the end. I don't want conflict. Okay. I know everyone thinks I hate conflict actually, but they're forcing this on all of us. And I feel like the system is breaking as a result.
Yeah.
Do you feel that?
I do. And
it's hard not to. It's hard not to. You can see it everywhere.
I don't think Marx actually said it, but in accelerationism, it's about heightening the contradictions.
Yes.
It's a Marxian theory. And in a way, I do think that that's what they're doing to all of us is they're forcing people who are sympathetic, who want to see our country first, who reject a lot of the premises of the left, spent a decade of our lives. In my case, you spent multiple decades of your life fighting against many of these forces, which we found repulsive, which we blame for the destruction of our country.
Yeah, CDJ might have been reading too far into what Sagar was saying when he said radicalizing Harvard. It just sounded super woke. And I would definitely need to. I would imagine that if we sat down and we asked him about that, we played him that clip, and what did you mean that we should be radical? I think I'm just speculating. I don't know what's in his head, but I think he would say something along the lines of, we can't just, try to quietly appeal this, that. We have to be loud and shine a light on it. I don't know for sure, but that's how I read it.
And then watching that get hijacked. And again, maybe I'm the fool. There was plenty of evidence it could go this way. I didn't think it would. I didn't think in particular it would go this far, but it's one of those where the breaking is happening at a voter level. And in particular, in the platform that you and I are speaking right now. I mean, as you know, I began my career by just going on Fox News. It's how I got trained in television. Obviously, you started and you've been on all of these platforms.
How do you just go on Fox News? Genuine question. How do you be in the position to just go on Fox News?
We could not even have this conversation.
No.
I would say 10 years ago. I don't think that the distribution and the audience and just the entire network that enables this possibility was there, but it's been felt at a deep level in the way that Oliver Stone's JFK film released something in America in 1991.
That's
it's
right.
always been inside of us, but now we have the voice, we have the words, but next is the tools. And a lot of people thought we had that tools with this administration.
Can you just pause?
That's an interesting parallel because we're talking about Trump and his role in all this. And
at a deep level in the way that Oliver Stone's JFK film released something in America.
Yeah.
I think you could say the same thing about Trump's initial election. Release something in America
In 1991.
That's
It's
right.
always been inside of us.
and that always that fight for being America first was always inside of us, but we just got so far off the path.
But now we have the voice, we have the words, and
therefore we no longer need Trump. I'm not saying impeach him and get rid of him. I'm just saying I was against the even talking about a third term from the very beginning.
Next is the tools, and a lot of people thought we had that tools with this administration.
A lot of people thought we had the tools with Trump, but Trump was just the guy.
Pause right now.
Yeah.
So I should just say, you alluded to it. You worked for me, not directly, but for
me,
company that I helped start. And then at like a really young age, you decided to, you were one of the very first people I knew personally decided to punch out and go independent. Because you had this really clear, and it turned out correct, view that the two-party system, well, there are differences between the parties, but fundamentally they were aligned on the big issues.
Yes.
And that
I missed a good no there, but I knew where he was going.
party system, well, there are differences between the parties, but fundamentally they were aligned on the big issues.
Yes.
And that a lot of voters didn't agree with their position on the big issue.
I want to talk on Fox.
It was mostly the economy and war. And you kind of moved out into this independent media world at what age?
I was 28, I guess.
That's
so
crazy.
28 years old.
So
that's about the same age I was when I started getting starting to pay attention to this shit.
If you don't mind, if it's not too embarrassing, because you told me I asked you a bunch of very specific questions about it last night, because I'm in that business, I'm interested. How you leave the Daily Caller, you go on Fox a lot, you're like a young pundit or whatever. So embarrassing. I did it too. I know, it's so embarrassing. And then you decide to go independent. What happened? Like, can you just give us that brief story? Because I think it says a lot about the moment we're in.
I owe a lot to the organization you started, and to Jeffrey Ingersoll, to Vince, to Neil Patel, and all of these guys. And the reason why is they put me in the position that made me have this realization. And what it was is being a White House correspondent.
Yes.
And what I discovered as being a White House correspondent, I mean, I don't want to toot my own horn. I think I was good at it. I interviewed Trump 4 times in 2 years. I asked Sarah, multiple questions for the record, multiple different foreign leaders, got stories, scoops, etc.
Journalism. You guys saw that people were mad that Tucker interviewed Mossad. Come on, man. So you just want the propaganda. Shout out to Funk Master General coming in hot with the $20 to the Overlord. Could just erase Epstein. You lazy motherfucker. He is so lazy. Funk Master said the Overlord could just erase Epstein from our memories, but we amuse him. We are mere toys in the comparison of to his majesty. Hard to disagree. Thank you so very, very much. Of course, that makes you the new sponsor of the stream. Guys, that is 7 out of 15. That's more than halfway. And 41 out of 50. We are getting there. Thank you so very, very much, sir. And welcome to the party. Hey, guys, remember, this is a free show. If you're not going to donate, you may as well hit the like on the donations.
Multiple questions for the record, multiple different foreign leaders, got stories, scoops, etc. But what I came to understand in the White House briefing room is I would watch. So for people who don't understand, in the front row is all the networks, the major networks, run by the White House Correspondents Association, which is a cartel, a non-governmental cartel, which runs the entire, I can get into that later if we would like. But I would watch every single person from the network ask some version of the same question, which was about Robert Mueller at the time.
Yes.
And I said,
yeah, that's what I was talking about. He just did that. And people are like, oh my God. It's like, well, they're like, well, yeah, but he's just going to lie to you. It's like, yeah, no shit. But would you rather not hear from it at all and just only get what DC and the mainstream media wants to tell you? I mean, what are we doing?
Every single person from the network asked some version of the same question, which was about Robert Mueller at the time.
Yes.
And I said, no one gives a shit about Robert Mueller.
No.
And I would always ask a question not about that. What I came to understand.
Explain, please.
And was that they were actually all performing for themselves. And what I really came to understand eventually was that the entire mainstream media is about performing for each other, for social and for career purposes. But even more broadly is that the mainstream media is a trade publication, and it's a trade publication for people in Washington and for people in power. There is a boomer legacy element to this, which obviously exists, but broadly.
Okay, boomer. And speaking of boomers, oh my goodness! Oh my goodness! Indie film with the $10. So let's see some push-ups. I was hoping. Oh my God! I'm gonna. Can you just reach your neck out, bruh? I was hoping that I wasn't gonna have to do any push-ups, but I guess the swole goal has been met. Thank you so very, very much. What do we got here? So that is 8 out of 15 and 51 out of 50. So the goal has been met. And let's see if we get both. If we get up to 15 chats, then not only will I do the push-ups. Every $2 is a push-up, but Morty can get some peanut butter. Let's say it. Thank you. So very, very much, guys. Very much appreciated. And of course, we are coming up on the 2.5 hour mark, and that keeps the party raging.
Is that the mainstream media is a trade publication, and it's a trade publication for people in Washington and for people in power. There is a boomer legacy element to this, which obviously exists, but
yeah, no. So this is what Sagar said. Sagar said, I interviewed Trump 4 times in 2 years. Why does that make him a tool? I feel like that's kind of a good thing for a journalist.
Broadly, it's not actually about informing the people. In fact, in terms of the journalism that I did, I tried to always ask questions I thought were relevant to the actual voters, but I didn't realize how counter that was to the entire philosophy.
But he didn't say that. I'm so confused. What can explain this to me like I'm 5? I'm too stupid.
Of a lot of the people who actually work and cover the media professionally. Then I came to see that Fox, CNN, and MSNBC are all vital parts of this machine. It's all part of a machine where Washington, as the imperial capital, speaks to each other. They're conduits for information which is relevant only to an individual node within the nexus. The voter did not matter in that equation. So what I decided to do is I had this opportunity to go to The Hill, currently thehill.com, and co-host the show with currently my co-host Crystal Ball. And what her
I hate her.
Her and I really bonded over. I remember the first segment we really bonded over was just about the opioid crisis. And I was like, I think that this is one of the most under-addressed issues in America. I think it's lip service, at the White House and others. Nobody's really doing anything about it. Deaths of despair. Our life expectancy at that time was going down. And so we just, that was kind of the evolution, like you said, of realizing that where the two parties agree, and the media in particular focuses on, is really the exact opposite of where most people are.
Racists say dude looks like Kash Patel, just younger and less twitchy. Well, that depends on whether or not it is true. So let's get a how about this one? This is a nice so we got that. Whoa, finally we got a big one. All right, we got a big one. Let's do this.
Agree. And
let's give him a better freeze frame. Wait, are you guys seeing this? Oh. I mean, it's the nose that's really, really, not quite there. Yeah, that's a little racist. They don't really look that much alike. They do both have short hair and brown skin, but other than that, I don't see it. But let's make it a poll. Does Sagar look like a younger Kash Patel? It's not actually racist, but I mean, a little bit. Shout out to Josie, another push-up with the 199. Said thoughts about UFC at the White House in 2026. I did not know about that, but I would like to tune in. I haven't been following UFC in years. Once, thank you again, Josie. Very, very, very much appreciated. But it's like, fuck, I'm racist. Yeah, if, as some of you know, I used to be part of the Filthy Casual MMA watch party over on the Talking Shit podcast with Dr. Evil Genius. And we would do 7-hour streams where we were watching the entire fight card. But I couldn't dedicate that time. You know, there was work and stuff, and they raised the prices, and so it was $50 a year for a subscription to ESPN Plus, and then you have to pay $80 every month for the pay-per-view. And I was like, I mean, I like watching this, but I can't afford this. I can't justify spending that kind of money on, you know, watching sports. And said I was wondering for 5 minutes why Cash was wearing glasses. Sorry, man. Fuck, I'm racist. Been called worse.
About it, deaths of despair, our life expectancy at that time was going down, and so we just, you know, that was kind of the evolution, like you said, of realizing that where the two parties agree, and the media in particular focuses on, is really the exact opposite of where most.
With Josie's super chat, guys, that is 9 out of 15. If we hit that 15 at any dollar amount, Morty gets some peanut butter.
People are, if you spend a lot of your time with people who are not political, they don't care about Robert Mueller. They don't particularly care about most of the scandals in Washington of the day. They're like, hey, my mortgage is really expensive. My kid's college, really, if I was lucky enough to save for 529, the inflation has gotten so out of control, I can't do that.
Yep, and this is why I resent people who are like, oh, you're just talking about the culture war issues. Like, there's bigger stuff going on. Kind of like how Trump was just like, you care about Epstein? There's other stuff going on. Well, guess the fuck what? Nobody gives a shit about Robert Mueller. Nobody who is looking to get into politics is like, let me do some research on Robert Mueller. The people who are already into politics, great. We want that. But some of us are aimed at the people who are maybe not spending their entire day reading the news and watching videos and C-SPAN and shit. Maybe you've got a job, you've got a family, you got both. Or maybe you just realize a lot of this just doesn't really matter. Not that it doesn't matter, but not much I can do about it. I forget what I was even
really.
Getting those people involved in this stuff is, I think, in my personal humble opinion, a good endeavor. Josie said they're gonna have it in front of the White House next year. The return and McGregor and rumors of Andrew Tate also joining in. Well, no longer a fan of Andrew Tate, but I absolutely would watch that. Absolutely. Is that the Super Troopers guy? Is that him? I feel like I recognize that name, but I don't. I'm not sure. And guys, our poll is at 50-50. Does Sagar look like a younger Kash Patel? Yes or no? Give me y'all vote. So you said even though we disagree with Sagar politically, we can understand his journalism. While others say because Sagar speaks against the agenda, you have to ignore him. But we are the biggest. Yep. Anybody that tells you, oh, you can't listen to this person or you shouldn't listen to that person is not smart enough to be able to listen to people that they don't understand. Or excuse me, they're not smart enough to listen to people they don't agree with and be able to understand that other people think things. Solipsism.
Of the day, they're like, hey, my mortgage is really expensive. My kid's college, really, if I was lucky enough to save for 529, the inflation has gotten so out of control, I can't do that. I'm really.
Oh, the Taco Bell guy? Well, we gotta look this up because I thought that was the Indian dude. Is the Indian dude not Indian? Oh, god damn it. God damn it. He's Mexican. Oh, yeah, what? He's Mexican? That's not what I want. Give me the all right. American comedian. is known for sketch comedy, Broken Lizard Group, Beer Fest, blah, blah, blah. Born in Chicago. Both are physicians of Tamil origin and originally from that. India. You lie! You lie! You lie, 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 lie! How dare you?
How dare you?
Why are you lying to me, bro? Why are you lying to me? Oh, my goodness. Josie again with the $5 to go back to the kitchen and make me a sandwich. Andrew Tate. Pretty much, except he'll add, because I love you and I will make you the happiest girl in the world if you do.
If I was lucky enough to save for a 529, the inflation has gotten so out of control, I can't do that. I'm really worried about the loan that my child is taking out. My one of my friend's kids recently died of a drug overdose.
Exactly.
These are the things that animate, the kitchen table, and about the concern and the feeling that our country is being taken away from me, the southern border. And it's not just a feeling of there's uncontrolled chaos at the border. There's a feeling of the collapse of social cohesion in our country. All of us can feel it. If you go to another country like Switzerland or Japan with controlled immigration, you will realize how radical it is, actually. And those are both very radicalizing experiences for me. But I just return to the point of why I wanted to go independent fundamentally is I wanted to cover the news in a way that I felt was actually applicable to the lives of everyday people. And I noticed a burgeoning movement on YouTube and in podcasts where this distribution platform basically allowed me to talk as long as I want to in the way that I am with you. And I mean, the most frustrating moments in my career, 24 years old, young, embarrassing pundit, is being invited.
We don't all agree. It is 50-50. We are split down the middle.
On Fox News at 11:50.
So just the racists in the crowd.
5 p.m. for a 3-person conversation about nationalism. And I got to speak for maybe 45 seconds. I can't articulate all my thoughts on this subject, and they're actually really important. And, that's where the fugazi element of all of that, it became too much, and I just felt so much more free. And by the way, as you know, at that time, everybody told me not to do it. They're like, what are you doing? You've got your career set. You're a White House correspondent. You can go work at any of these other companies. A lot of other companies were trying to recruit me at that time. They said, you're an idiot for going to this unproven concept. You don't know if it's going to work. And it was, the greatest bet, I guess, of my life, because we took this small channel, Crystal and I, of some 6,000. I think we had 100,000 subscribers in 3 months. And we had an audience of, millions, basically, by the time we'd left less than 2 years later. But that was the confidence that I had to go into.
That's what I was saying. If he would have gone anywhere, I would have voted for him. I preferred Vivek over Trump. Just saying.
Was I knew that the knowledge was there.
If it was working.
Well, the knowledge, basically, it became irreconcilable to be attached to a mainstream media organization. And I've talked about this publicly, but the owners and the people who worked there, we were starting to become so popular that our comments were causing problems in Washington, is that people were getting upset at the things we would say, advertisers or members of Congress. They would call our bosses, and pressure began to come down to kind of change the way that we would talk about certain subjects. This is, by the way, happens in every mainstream media corporation. It's part of the reason that being the way we set up our business is so the vast majority of our revenue comes from subscriptions. And it's because we don't want to be accountable to any advertiser.
Shout out. Oh, come on. Shout out to the disciples. And of course, our true disciple, Avery. Keeping my shit afloat.
Or anybody else. We don't even read ads on our platform specifically for that reason. And it's all to insulate my ability to be able to come here and talk the way that I do about a subject I feel passionately about. Let's say Israel and free speech, which I know already. Every word that I'm saying here is going to be dissected.
Starts at $2.99, guys. That comes with 12 after parties at the very least, plus 24/7 hanging out in Discord.
It is going to be used as an attack vector. And in the past, that could have cost me my career. Yeah. And at the end of the day, that's why I decided to leave, is to be able to speak the truth.
That would be fun. Oh my God. Oh my God. Crystal Ball and Tucker Carlson. Oh my God. I would fucking love that. Candace versus Crystal would also be very, very interesting. Shout out to Funkmaster General out sponsoring himself with 10 gifted memberships. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so very, very much. Big shout out to Gridiron Masters, Chris George, Sammy73, Charles, Dumb Dem Policy says what? Steve, CMT, Inside of the Ages, M169, and Ron Southall. You are all now disciples of this channel. Make sure you hit that link at the top of the chat if you're not already in the Discord, because you now have a full month of full access. Thank you so very, very much. So if you are on a PC, then you can just go right below the video. Of course, he doesn't have a fucking membership set, but let's just do this. If you guys are enjoying the show, the party rages on 24/7 over in our Discord. The link is pinned to the top of the chat and is absolutely free to join 24/7. We're in there hanging out, having a great time. And guys, it is absolutely free. However, if you are a member of this channel here on YouTube, you can scroll right below that video and hit that join button. Starts at $2.99. There's a few different tiers, but $2.99 will get you in. It gets you members only live streams here on YouTube, all that other good stuff. But it opens up the full Discord server. So we've got the free chat that is open to anyone. Anybody can join and talk. But as you can see, that is just one of our channels. There's a bunch of different channels here, including our disciple chat for members only, our word of the day watch party, where we're talking about all this stuff. And of course, we have the voice channel here, where we are hanging out at this moment. Shout out to everybody in the Discord server. Say hello and tell them to come and join. There you go, guys. Simple as that. See you there. And of course, if you got a gifted membership, you do not have to worry about just being in the free chat. And if you click that free link, then you at least get one day to hang out and see what it's all about. So that's on the website. I wasn't sure. So on Android, you go to the YouTube app, go to the page or one of the videos, tap the join button in the channels banner or the top of a video. I can also actually just drop the link right here. See, this is what happens when Nick isn't around. Shout out to Nick. You can also just click that link right there. And you can choose your membership level. If you're on iPhone, wow, that is a fucking annoying thing. But if you're on iPhone, you have to open Safari, not the YouTube app. Go to youtube.com, sign in, and go to the page that is at the Indian Jesus Official. youtube.com/at the Indian Jesus Official, and click join, and you will have access to all the goodies. Oh my goodness, again. Fuck, where's my boss? There we go. Funkmaster again. Josie received a membership. There we go. If you're not already in the Discord, make sure you join. And if you join and you've gotten a gifted membership, then make sure you let me know so I can give you the permissions. And yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. But click the link. I just put the link in the chat. Just click the link, and that should bring you directly to wherever you need to go. Thank you again, Funkmaster General. I am not gonna have fun doing these push-ups, but I very, very, very much appreciate you. I gotta do some math here.
That could have cost me my career. Yeah. And at the end of the day, that's why I decided to leave, is to be able to speak the truth. That's why Crystal as well was the level of control, inevitably, even with the freest hand possible, while attached to these behemoths, mainstream media. It's irreconcilable. If you want to tell the truth, you cannot be attached to any organization which depends on insider access and on insider money. You have to separate yourself from that entity.
Yeah, yes, that has been the experience of my life. What were the red lines did you find? So you're young and as you're hosting this show on a kind of brand new medium, this weird setup where you're working for The Hill, but you're doing an independent show, you're learning what you're not allowed to.
Guys, we've hit $100. I've got to do 50 fucking push-ups here. Oh my goodness. Hey, fuck you. All right. Fuck you. I mean, you might be the only girl here right now, but you're not the only girl you're definitely not the only girl in the Discord, and definitely not the only girl subscribed to the Indian Jesus. I mean, look at that. Look at that. Thank you so very, very much. I am not looking forward to 50 push-ups, but I am very happy with that number.
Yes.
but you're doing an independent show, you're learning what you're not allowed to say.
Yeah, can't criticize
You are beautiful, no matter what they say.
the age of
Oh, you got to pay extra for that.
members of Congress. How did that work out, by the way? Conversations around age. Can't criticize TikTok, the Chinese government. That was a big one. Can't criticize or talk openly about Israel. Can't criticize. My favorite was CNBC, Jim Cramer. That's
Can't
the real
criticize
story.
Jim Cramer?
Can't criticize, which is hilarious. If you go on Twitter, there's an entire inverse Cramer index. Of
Yeah, people get rich betting against
people
Jim.
get very rich.
Jim Cramer
betting
is so
against that man.
stupid that people get
Yes, exactly.
rich taking
I mean,
the opposite
I
advice.
still laugh.
How the fuck does that guy have a show like that? He's been so wrong so much. Why would anybody listen to him?
About that one,
What happened?
Yeah, I said he was an idiot, and a little bit about that later.
Your bosses were like,
Yeah,
no.
we can't say things like that, But
Jim Cramer's very smart. He went to Harvard.
Pharma, I forgot pharma. We talked a lot about big pharma. That's that's one. I mean, take a look at the ads. Really, but it wasn't that. Because I didn't actually change anything I said, but I can't sit here and not lie to this audience and say that it was always in the back of my head.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
Always in your head.
You don't even realize how
Yes.
present it is in your head until it's not there.
Look, I mean, I was young, I needed career, I have to eat, I have a salary.
Yeah.
These are realities that I'm just laying out for people.
Yes.
And as, as free and as ethical as I tried to uphold myself and a Crystal as well, we just could not stay in that environment. And that's why we decided to go.
So then you decide to go and you basically take a version of the same show, totally independent on the internet, relying on subscriptions, mostly subscriptions rather than advertising for the reasons you just so well described. What happens?
Yeah, I mean, it's wildly exceeds our expectations on the very first day of launch. Both
on the first day?
The first day of launch, I mean, they basically enabled us to run the company for a year, which was insane. I mean,
in other words, you made enough on your very first day
yes,
to run it debt-free for a year.
To run the company.
All right, I gotta be honest, I don't fully care about his past. I kind of want to talk more about what's going on. So we'll skip ahead to how the deep state turns journalists into mindless pawns.
That still has got to drive you crazy. It's like an assault on your self-respect every single time.
But what I found, and I'm sure you find the same, is that what I saw for them is they started to believe that proximity to power is power itself. And what I found really gross about that is they start to fetishize like the most ridiculous things, as in who gets the first rope line when you get to ask Trump a question. I mean, the amount of actual physical fighting that happens in that scrum, people would genuinely not believe.
Really?
I got hit in the head once, actually, with an elbow from a photographer for taking his spot, even though there's no unassigned spots. These are minutia, but what I'm saying is it's a level of psychosis that takes over because
in the White House press corps.
In the White House press corps, everything is about access to the president, and so everybody is jockeying in a zero-sum environment where everyone is trying to get the interview or going to schmooze this person or that person. But the problem with that is they turn from practitioner to starting to believe that they themselves are important and this vital conduit of information. And what you turn into is basically an apparatchik of the state environment.
What the fuck does apparatchik mean? Apparatchik.
Apparatchik.
Member of a communist party apparat. What?
Apparat.
The administration system of the Communist Party. Okay, so we're talking about commies. The fucking commies.
Of information. And what you turn into is basically an apparatchik of the state.
There you go. Guamtech paying himself already. I probably should break it up, but you guys pay for the struggle, so
environment that I'm talking about. And so for many of the anchors and others, they live for the black tie war at White House Correspondents' Dinner or getting invited to a cocktail party or a book party. I mean, this is the currency of Washington and of New York. It has been for decades. But you start to live, you start to fill that emptiness inside of you with the knowledge that you get the FaceTime with a sub-cabinet appointee at a dinner, and you can use that information because Senator Schumer knows your name. These are all very important things,
The connections. It's not what you do, it's who you know.
For the social capital. And this is pathetic. I want people to know this is pathetic. And I watch people live their entire lives on Capitol Hill, in the White House press corps, in television and other, for all of these like imperial level events that are put on to just make them feel special and continue on in the machine.
Superficial people who have nothing. They have nothing to offer to the world or to themselves. And so this status is all that they can do.
And I actually didn't realize how radical it was for people like you or people like me to say, I actually don't care about that at all. I don't care if I ever go to another cocktail party or another black tie dinner or any of these things, simply to be in the presence of people who are actually powerful. I would rather just critique them and say what I actually think. And the irony, of course, is, as you have found out, when you say what you actually think and you are critical of them in an honest way.
They don't like that. Shout out to RN. Welcome back, Jack. Good to see ya. CT said, remember, Norm Macdonald made terrorist jokes at the press conference the press conference dinner. Yep. Shout out to Norm. Neville said, let's spread all federal agencies throughout the country. Nah.
They take you so much more seriously.
Yes.
They laugh
Megalomaniac
at you when you're one of those people who cares about cocktail parties or any of that. You're one of the most useful cogs in the machine. It's the people they can't control or the people who they call because they're the inconvenient voices.
So that was, it's interesting you said that. That was my next question. So the whole process of covering the White House, being in the White House press corps, going to the briefings and the gaggle and all that, going to the parties, are you actually getting information?
No, I've never gotten more information than what I do right now. I actually, during the 12-day war,
it's just status. It's not any, there's no concrete value to any of it except status.
Literally never got more information from inside of the entire apparatus than I ever did when I was covering the White House. And it was because I was so critical of the Trump administration, of the direction that they were taking. And many of the people who I spoke to, for the record, actually were almost none who I knew personally. Almost all simply saw my commentary and agreed with me and wanted a conduit for information to be able to get out of there.
Yes.
And that's a great lesson, by the way, for any white aspiring journalists or others who listen, is
White aspiring or White House aspiring?
It's a great lesson, by the way, for any white aspiring journalists or others who listen, is they will take you much more seriously if you hit them in the face. And hitting them in the face makes them kind of shocked because it's so counter to the way that the machine works.
I think the caption's messed up. I think he was talking about if you want to work in the White House. I don't think he was talking about white journalists.
When you work in the machine, they can call your editor, they can call your boss, they can call your advertiser, they can put a significant amount of pressure on you. But when they can't control you, they start to freak out.
No, I think that's right.
That is one of the most useful lessons of my life, actually, in terms of coverage and in terms of journalism and the ability to speak out. Speaking out can get you, is unfortunately such a differentiator from where...
ask Edward Snowden. Ask fucking, what's his name? Julian Assange. Any films I'm talking about? Gutting DC. So say FEMA is based in Colorado and the ATF is based in Texas, etc. I feel like that opens up the door for a lot more fuckery. Like there's just a lot more shit that, it's like, well, that's that state or that's this state. I feel like when it's all in one spot, I feel like we can more easily call it out, but I don't know. I don't know what the fuck I'm saying. CT says kind of like Elad from Timcast, the Timcast White House correspondent. He is just insufferable. Well, make white inspiring again. What? Huh? Shout out to John Castle. Welcome. Can we not fuckery around? What?
The entire traditional system really starts to work.
What's the downside?
Well, the downside is, a freezing out of the entire social movement of professional Washington. Is that professional Washington protects its own. It's effectively a jobs network for each other, so that people who are in and out of government always have reliable sources of income. Implicit within that is that, hey, this is what we think about Israel. This is what we think about.
Glad to see you, brother.
XY taxes, this is what we think about the carried interest loophole. We don't talk about that. The step up basis. This is what we think about cutting Social Security. This is an accepted fact. We need to accept this, that it's acceptable, to kick elderly people off Social Security or Medicare or food stamps. And we just take this information, and in exchange for that information, we get a job for the rest of our lives. If I hadn't gone independent, I could have easily relied on working in Washington until the age of 65 within the machine. That would have been actually very doable. And this was the risk, actually, is saying what you actually want to say. That is the riskiest thing you can do within the system. And in exchange, you will no longer get invited to these dinners or any of these other things. You have to be okay with that. You have to be okay, I think, with something that you have found as well, by being denounced by people who you knew personally, or people who, who you would help in their career. People who you, in many ways, you're like, I would personally never do that to you. I can't really believe that you're doing it to me.
Oh, I know.
And the reason you're doing it is, we all know what it is you're being controlled by a broader and a bigger either financial or foreign lobby interest.
I've had this experience.
And this is the red line for you?
Where you call people and you're like, I can't believe you said that about me. You know, calling me a bigot or whatever when you know that I'm not.
And then they'll be like, well, I didn't actually mean that, but you know, I had to say that for my audience.
And I don't even go on the internet anymore, so I have no idea what people are saying. But several years ago when all this began, I remember calling a couple people, and one person, I said, well, let's have lunch. No.
Wow.
Tucker's the kind of person where I believe him when he says he doesn't go online. Like a lot of other people in this space will try to act like, they're not like the rest of us where we're on our phones every fucking second. And yet somehow they know everything about this, that, and that. And I feel like Tucker is that kind of person where he's like, yeah, I'm kind of above that. I don't know. That was a half-baked thought. I don't know if it makes sense.
No. Yeah. Okay. So when you went independent, you've been in DC because you got there for college. You've been there for 10 years. You know a lot of
definitely would have fucking noticed that.
People. Right. Got there at 18, right?
Yes, 18 years old.
Independent at 28. So you know a ton of people. You're a social person. I happen to know. So you are going to tons of events and you have tons of friends, and all of a sudden you're going off in a direction. You're not spewing hate or bigotry at all, but you are saying things that other people are not saying. How intensely did people try to bring you back?
Yeah, almost immediately. There were a lot of warnings about, hey, this is dangerous. Or my my close friends knew that they supported me.
They're gonna come for you.
But it was really,
well, if you're white, then it'd be one thing, but you're a brown man.
Like the professional friends, people who you're broadly acquainted with, are like, what's he up to? What's his deal? What's happening here? And it's incredible how rapid that shrink can happen in terms of not being invited to these things anymore, or
it's a big club and you ain't in it.
Just being as a social outcast, or your phone stops ringing to various different things.
Did you feel that right away?
Almost. I wouldn't say immediately, but it did happen like quite rapidly. A 6-month, maybe a 1-year period. Israel was actually the final straw. In particular, after October 7th, that was almost an immediate cutoff from the entire professional network.
Why? But what did you say?
Well, I said that.
Well, it's probably more about what he didn't say.
I think that the way that Israel was conducting itself in Gaza was not befitting of a civilized Western nation.
Okay, that might be it.
And that the United States didn't have a compelling interest in what was going on there, and that we should just focus on ourselves. I said all the same things about Ukraine, and many of them agreed with me then. Apparently that was the red line, for them. But
what kind of reaction did you get?
Well, I mean, a lot of it is, calling people in my social circle, asking why I'm so anti-Semitic now. Why?
Actually?
Yes. Yeah. No, that actually happened.
I missed this, but you do realize that they fall off of their head every year, right? I appreciate the concern. I appreciate the concern. But oh man. You said that with your whole chest, bro. All right. I'm back in.
My social circle asking why I'm so anti-Semitic now. Why?
Actually?
Yes. Yeah. No, that actually happened. And a lot of it is also just generally a freeze of communication or discomfort, being in presence. And I think people should hear about this, because
this is going along with exactly what I was saying in that TikTok video with Chit. Do it, lady. Yeah. Is there a black person here? Anybody? Is there a black person in here? Is that? I just want to know if there's a black person here.
I just described that social capital, when that's everything. This is how those norms are enforced within the system, even if you've never received any money from any of these people, which of course most of them have. And so you put all of that together and you really watch this professional nexus and others, where you're just almost immediately rejected from the inner sanctums of the Imperium. But I mean, something that traces back to wanting to go independent was this knowledge that outside of the Imperium are all of these other rising, almost revolutionary forces of the
Wait.
Person here?
Wait. Sideways. Shout out to
What was that? Is there a black person here? What did you just say? I said, is there a black person here? Do you have a question? Yeah. Is there a black person here?
Shit, why are you asking that?
And Janet said there was one in here. Came to check. There's a white person here too. Well, I don't need one of those.
Chit, please stop what you're doing.
What's the big deal? I'm just trying to find the black person here.
Well, you found her. Okay, you got her today. Okay, let me see. Let me set my sparkling down.
Oh, here it is.
Got it.
Chit, are you saying, is there a black purse in here?
Yeah. Success.
Yeah.
I like your haircut, Linda.
Thank you, Chit.
I don't know if you got a Netflix deal, but there's somebody is going to pick that shit up. In 2 months, that shit has blown up to like, I don't know exactly how many followers on TikTok, but it is massive, which is why it's funny to me that none of you guys, except for Guamtech, seem to know who he is. Like, it's huge. All right.
Outside of the Imperium.
Let me just check these other. We got Elon Musk's American Party. Sports gambling, we can skip. How politicians use debt to exploit young people and get rich. I think we're pretty good at that. So there is, okay, so let's go to Elon Musk's party, and then there's one more chapter on the Epstein cover-up is insulting and very dangerous. And then it is time for push-ups.
Totally
and
right.
that, and these are mechanical, but they're macro and important issues.
Nicely put.
Yeah.
So I want to ask you about the politics of all this, because I feel like, so it is, what's the date? Monday,
Saint Amal.
July 7th. Things are moving so fast that, who knows where we'll be when this airs, which I hope is soon. But as of this morning, Elon Musk.
Whenever they do that, like if you're going to say, like, oh, whenever this comes out, the next line should be like, this is being recorded on this day. Maybe not necessarily at this time, but like, this is the day that we're recording this.
Is out there using the cover-up that Pam Bondi is so clearly engaged in, disgraceful cover-up. And I like Pam Bondi personally, but I'm ashamed as an American to see what they're doing. But he's using that to say, hey, we need a new political party. Like, everyone's involved in the Epstein cover-up, which is true. We need an America party, and I'm running it. Where does this? Is he?
You can turn timestamps on as you hit the whatchamacallit. Like, I have my timestamps on here. The time here. You just go there and timestamps on. Come on. All right. Do it.
True. We need an America party, and I'm running it. Where does this? Is he serious? Where does this go?
He filed it with the FEC. I would give some caution.
He did file it with the FEC.
Elon, Tucker, you and I have seen a lot of rich people come and go in Washington.
Yes.
And the consultants see you coming from a mile away, Mr. Fiscally Conservative, Socially Liberal. I'm just going to put that out there. The Bipartisan Policy Center and all these other people, they've rolled up that entire market. They have plenty to sell you, PowerPoints about ranked choice voting and a few other things and all that. So for all of them, I wish you the best of luck, because you're all about to get filthy rich off of Elon.
Okay.
True, but I just don't see it going anywhere. I don't see it going anywhere.
Can you just explain a little bit? So I'm from DC, so I know what you're talking about. But for people who aren't, what exactly are you saying?
Well, I'm saying that there is a long fetishized idea of an American third party, which is fiscally conservative, which is socially liberal, which is moderate on immigration, and
well, back to it then. Yeah.
Which is very comfortable with oligarchy, and that those forces are extremely well funded, and they have a lot of research which could back up whatever your proclivities are, and they
from the experts
will happily sell it to you for 10 times market price and sit with presentations to convince you that this is a great idea. And actually, I mean, the irony is, if Elon's politics were more reversed in this sense, I actually think he would be onto something. So my belief is that both of the parties actually do have not answers directly, but directionally to the fundamental problems of our age.
The shame comes from the fact that if they are being manipulated, we would like to see, or we would expect, you're like, hey, they're trying to fucking black. See, we fucking told you. We told you. I'm Dan Bongino, and I had a fucking show that forever. I was like, look, we got to pay attention. This is the worst thing ever. And then they got in there. I got in there, and they fucking started blackmailing me. Now, I could understand that you would put your family over the American people, but if you're going to be that guy, be that fucking guy.
Immigration, and I think the Republican Party obviously is solid, or has come a long way. on the issue of at least the base, let's say that.
The voters.
Yeah, the voters on the issue of immigration, from the Gang of Eight party and rebellion to where we are today. And immigration, I still believe, is one of the most central and important issues of our time. But let's put the other side, and we can take this one big beautiful bill as an example. We increased the defense budget by $150 billion. Now, I will not get into the actual specific Medicaid cuts, but I think it's everything in Washington is about priority. So we extended.
And what is the priority behind this?
Listen, that Jeffrey Epstein story is a big deal. Please do not let that story go. Keep your eye on this. Catherine Rumler, we need to keep the heat on this case, folks. There are a lot of people who are knee deep in the Washington swamp who are not telling you the truth about serious allegations out there that Epstein may have had video and audio of people out there doing things they shouldn't have been doing. And you should be asking yourself the question, how is it that all these people, the CIA director, the Obama fixer, Bill Clinton, all intersected paths with Jeffrey Epstein? Jeffrey Epstein isn't with us anymore, and nobody seems to want to talk about it outside of a few entrepreneurial media outlets saying, hey, this is a big deal.
He killed himself. You want me to, I've seen the whole file. He killed himself.
Listen, that Jeffrey Epstein story is a big deal.
We got Nan, and then we've got Kash Patel. Is Kash Patel a famous cat or something?
Why is the FBI protecting the greatest pederast, the largest scale pederast in human history?
Simple, because of who's on that list. You don't think that Bill Gates is lobbying Congress night and day to prevent the disclosure of that list? And why is it that the Senate, and good for Senator Blackburn to try to get it out, but then Dick Durbin comes over the top and says, no, we're not going to release the names. I don't care about the list itself, but he released the names, right?
And now, trust me, bro, would I do this to you?
I've said it. Dan Bongino said it. We've reviewed all the information, and the American public is going to get as much as we can release. He killed himself. Do you think? Let's play out the logical conclusion of this. Do you think that myself, Bongino, and others would participate in hiding information about Epstein's grotesque activities? Or do you think we would also participate in not prosecuting people we had evidence to prosecute people on?
Yep. As CT brought up, they got families.
Where's the videotape of an Epstein Island of X, Y, and Z committing these frauds? Why?
That's your job, motherfucker.
Haven't you given it to us? Do you really think I wouldn't give that to you?
Yes. Yes, I do.
If it existed?
I mean, what is there to say? What is there to say? What am I missing here? Dylan said there are two things about that. One, if the Epstein list slash debacle was a nothing burger, I've expected them to look and act defeated and in disbelief, not reading from a script. And two, the swamp fought back. Indeed, we do think that you would lie. Gosh, just tell us the truth. You were threatened by the reptilian demons and have to save us from the truth. And here's the thing. Here's the thing. I don't know exactly what's going on, but I would accept, hey, I got in here and I was ready to do all this, but they've said some shit and now I can't because they're going to do something to my family. Leave it at that. Leave it at that. At least conspiratorially, then we've got a reason to trust that you can't give us information or whatever it is. Just trust me, bro. Trust me, bro. Fuck you. Trust me, bro. Josie said, remember that public interview that Armstrong gave when they came back from the moon? They looked terrified. That's how these two look now. Yeah, let's take a look at that. Fucking Neil Armstrong. I trust.
Let's look at the Apollo 11
Rogan to get the right one.
Press conference, because this is a weird one. Because these guys just returned from the moon, and they look like they're in a hostage video.
Boy, they look like they're at the funeral of their mother.
It does not seem like these are happy guys who just returned from the moon. Scooch ahead a little bit. Scooch. So look how nervous they look. Look at Michael Collins fidgeting. And obviously you would be nervous. You're addressing all these people. But it's the tone in which Neil Armstrong takes. And then after this, we're going to show the 25th anniversary speech, which is one of the most bizarre.
Let's go.
Go back a little bit. Go back a little bit so you can hear. Here we go.
It was our pleasure to have participated in one great adventure. It's an adventure that took place not just in the month of July, but rather one that took place in the last decade. We all.
This is a weird setup. Why are who chose this?
Here and the people listening in today had the opportunity to share that adventure over its developing and unfolding.
Shout out to the madman in the building. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So can I play devil's advocate? Absolutely you can. That is what we're here for.
That adventure over its developing and unfolding in the past months and years. It's our privilege today to share with you some of the details of that final month of July. That was certainly the highlight for the three of us of that decade. We're going to divert a little bit from the format of past press conferences and talk about the things that interested us most, in particular the things that occurred on and about the moon. We will.
Like, I mean, we get the point here. Like, this doesn't seem like somebody who's excited to come back from the fucking moon. Let's see if they have another one to compare it to in this clip. This was the 25-year anniversary.
Cryptic remarks before the next generation of taxpayers as they toured the White House.
Today we have with us a group of students among America's best. To you, we say, we've only completed a beginning. We leave you much that is undone. There are great ideas undiscovered, breakthroughs available to those who can remove one of truth's protective layers.
What?
Okay, what does that mean? What does that mean?
Remove the truth's protective layers? What you talking about, Willis? I mean, fair, but okay. So this came up when I was before launch. So let's hear him before the launch. This is 1969.
This is astronaut Neil Armstrong, command pilot for the Apollo 11 moon landing mission. What is the purpose of the Apollo 11 mission?
Okay, so this is before. Let's see. Let's compare. Because good point. Maybe he just is like that.
Apollo 11 is man's first attempt to demonstrate the ability to go to the moon, to land there, and to return to Earth.
Seems excited. Seems excited.
How do you view your role as command module pilot?
So I mean, I'm just saying. Well, and right. So, but then why do we get such a more upbeat and happy guy before he's going on this mission, and then after he's so subdued? I'm not claiming I have answers. I think I just have good questions. Shout out to Josie adding another push-up. Said run the poll, was the moon landing real? And indeed we did do that, so let me know what you guys think. Any film said they found the Nazi base on the dark side and had to keep it quiet. Probably. Like Sully after landing successfully in the Hudson. What about that? Because like that was like a that was in the tragedy. So like yes, he saved that, but that was a bad thing that happened. Whereas going to the moon,
theoretically should be all positive. One thing's for sure, we beat Russia to the moon. Did we though? You don't need media training to be excited. No saying.
Specific Medicaid cuts, but I think it's everything in Washington is about priority. So we extended the tax cuts from the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act of 2017. The vast majority of that benefit largely accrues to people who are already rich. Most of that, in particular, accrues either to the high W-2 income earner. I saw somebody point out correctly that most of those people are Democrats, so it's a little bit ironic. If you're just thinking purely in terms of politics, we didn't have any interest in closing the carried interest loophole. We didn't have any interest in looking at the step-up basis, at looking at financialization and there's so many areas,
I'm right there with you.
Hundreds of billions of dollars ripe for the taking without having to touch a single benefit to an American citizen. And instead, we rewrote the way that Medicaid and food stamp programs are going to work, which could potentially impact tens of millions of Americans.
This is the third poll in a row where we are split 50-50. That very rarely happens once. 3 times in a row. We got to break the tie, guys.
Now, again, I think there's legitimate criticisms around work requirements and welfare and all that. I don't necessarily criticize that as opposed to this fetishization that I saw from GOP congressmen who were like, yeah, it's good that people are going to lose their health care. And I said, look, whether these people are working or not, it's not good that anybody loses health care. And so that's what I mean about where if Elon's politics were flipped, I think the Democrats, at least rhetorically, do have correct focus on issues like health care and around, or at the very least, the way that our economy is structured. Now,
So, CT, if you're saying now the Democrat is coming out, I'd be like, all right, I see it.
May not mean it, and I don't think they mean it in practice, but at least rhetorically. So if you were to marry those 3 issues about immigration restriction, about focus on quality of life, cost of living, healthcare, and also just broadly about restructuring our economy for productive purposes that distributes not through socialism, but through a well-ordered and a well-regulated capitalism that distributes the benefit across all sectors of our society. Now that's an America party I could get on board with.
Totally.
But there's no funding for that, right?
No, if someone got up and said, I'd like an economy where you don't.
It's me, American. I'm just an American skin suit. I'm actually a 3-eyed alien.
Don't have to hire an illegal alien to raise your kids. Your wife can stay home and raise your kids if she wants to. And most women do want to for the period when they're little. I mean,
if they want to, that's
most
fine.
women want that. Yeah. And every survey shows that.
They just have to pretend that they don't because they want to be boss babes. Strong, independent women don't need no man. Oh, God damn it. I thought we were ended. But we went back and it went 50-50. We got to do it again. We got to do it again. Oh, my goodness. Oh, my goodness. We had the tie broken. We had the tie broken. We got to run it again. Run it again.
So if you were to say that, in other words, if you were to respond to the desire of the majority, you'd probably be shot to death. You can't say that. Right. Like, it's better to raise your kids than to work in a bank.
Right.
Oh, right-wing extremism. Yes. Let's just seal the borders till we figure out who's here and restore meaning to citizenship. What? Racist. Maybe we should stop giving billions in aid to stop trying to run the world when we're not good at it.
Yeah. Tucker, we are the world police, okay? Running the world is what we are here for.
And just preserve our fundamental national interests. Isolationist, Nazi, anti-Semite. It's like,
or in socialist when we talk about healthcare.
Yeah,
or any of those other
socialist.
issues.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the shoe fits.
I mean, I do feel like there's a huge opportunity for someone who would talk like that.
That's a real America party. I mean, at his best, the 2016 Donald Trump campaign was what I just talked about. I did not recognize it at the time. I was telling you yesterday that election night broke every political conception idea I had,
man.
Which is the best thing that ever happened.
Which
happened to me because
yes, and while that was the best thing ever, that is exactly why I brought up the 4-minute mile. That once we saw, you don't have to be all buttoned up and presidential in order to become the president. Now that we know that, we don't just need to take the first guy who's a little bit brash and telling it like it is to be like, this is the only thing that we can do. Punkmasters, leave it? What?
How dare you?
All right. Thank you so very, very much for being here. And of course, being the sponsor of the stream. Not even going to stick around, making me do all these push-ups, not even going to stick around to watch. All right. I see you.
It allowed me to free my mind to read all of these other people who I'd never considered, who I was told were illegitimate, within professional Washington. And what it came to the conclusion is that professional Washington is illegitimate and has no idea what allegedly its own voters
Why
want.
did so few people do? I had the same experience, but which it was hard for me because I've been there for so long, but it was so liberating, and I'm grateful for it. And I'm grateful to Trump for that. But why
Red pilling. Oh, the freedom of being red pilled.
did so few people do that?
Because asking those questions, that is not asking those questions and coming to what I think are the right conclusions about our economy and about this restructuring of our entire political base. I mean, the way that voting patterns over the last decade have changed is unbelievable. And when you actually answer a lot of those questions, you come to them that are very, inconvenient.
Maybe. Just said I lost so many friends back in 2016 because I was posting about Trump. And as much as I was a never Trumper in 2016, that was the start of me breaking away from that default liberal position, because I didn't have any interest in being like, you're a bad person because I like Bernie and you like Trump. You must be a bad person. That's just not how I saw things. And when that became the standard of being on the left, I was like, oh, this is not me. All right. Does everybody have their vote in? I'm about to end the poll. Anybody last minute vote, get it in. Get it in. But if we're tied, we're going to keep it open. Shout out to 2016 walking away. I walked away more like 2018-ish. If you have not seen my walk away video, definitely go check that out. Bernie Bro Atheist Walks Away, I think. What is it called? Yeah, if you just search Bernie Bro Walk Away, you will get this video, and I'll put it on the chat. But you should definitely watch it, especially if you are relatively new here. That was a year ago that I told that story. Yup.
Believable. And when you actually answer a lot of those questions, you come to them that are very, inconvenient for the empire. The empire currently runs on cheap labor, which is immigration related. It runs on war abroad, military industrial complex.
A war abroad? Where's the war abroad? I want to check out the war abroad.
You want to call it immigration related. It runs on war abroad, military industrial complex, if you want to call it. But all of these foreign entanglements and pushing billions of dollars, to policing the ends of the earth, something that I always want to come back. The architects of the American empire, General Eisenhower and General Marshall, General Eisenhower in particular, said it would be a failure if American legions acted as Roman, that were deployed to the vast ends of the earth, policing it. His vision for the American empire was to set up well-ordered states in Europe and to then let them handle it from that point forward. General Marshall and others, yes, they had the Marshall Plan, but the idea was about creating self-sufficiency that could allow America, that could return to where things were broadly in more than 1940s environment. But
and that was the promise of MAGA. And I believe that still can be, as long as we understand that Trump and MAGA are not the same thing.
What I'm saying is that if you look at all of that and you start to speak against it, and these are what the voters want, you start to come up against the most powerful interests in the world. Healthcare is 20% of our GDP. We have the worst health outcomes in the developed world. That's insane. Why? It's not because...
I agree. It's either we are all going to be proven wrong and we can actually live in a socialist paradise, or we don't have a lot of fun covering all the fucking stupid shit that he's doing and how he's going to bring New York City back way down to where it was in the 70s. Justice said, by the way, news just broke. Los Angeles approves $1.3 billion for illegal welfare, meaning free housing, free food. Surprised? Me neither.
Because our healthcare system is not working all that well. It comes down to immigration. We talked about cheap labor. With war, that's foreign governments. It's the ideology of the imperium, which is all about basically transnational loyalty as opposed to loyalty to your own citizenship and really to your own country. And then broadly about oligarchy. And because when we look at the way How do you become rich in America today? A few years ago, I went to the Forbes billionaire list, and I just restricted the list to the number of new billionaires that were added to that list. The vast majority of those new billionaires in America were people who worked in hedge funds and in finance. And this is why, in some ways, the left is wrong. They often criticize. They'll often criticize like
the billionaires.
Let's take Elon as an example, and Elon is a complicated figure. But look, I have a Tesla. I encourage everybody to get in one at least once, because it's like getting an iPhone 4 for the first time. It will change your entire conception of what a car is. Now, if people were getting
Android's better, but
rich creating an American car company, I would be ecstatic. But that's not what they're getting rich from. They're getting rich from extractive, addictive capitalism. Let's say in finance, right? Basically creating, unproductive trading systems, which are only enriching themselves and then rigging our tax code so they pay lower taxes than small business owners, maybe like you or I, or the average person on the street who gets taxed.
Tucker Carlson is not a small business.
Taxed at a higher rate for his labor. Let's take, other examples like the more, all the companies, so-called great companies coming necessarily out of Silicon Valley. The vast majority of that money, as Peter Thiel famously said, we're promised flying cars, all we got were 140 characters. There is something deeply true about that, about the experience of the technology industry has largely.
That man said electric should compete with gas cars. They will when they can compete with gas cars. That's how the market works. The fact that they are not competing with gas cars means that gas cars are better. Better for what? For whatever people are buying cars for. When you can get an electric car for a reasonable price and you can charge it in a reasonable amount of time for a reasonable amount of money, then we're probably going to switch over. But they don't. Once they do that, then hey, I think we all are interested in the benefits that something like that could have, but it's very limiting. And the fact that we've seen so many issues with like it doesn't work in the cold and 2 inches of water will fry the battery and stuff like that. That is not a great car.
Been about extractive capitalism and addiction on our phones and about industries that rely on that as opposed to products that make our lives better and make
All right, everybody put your screen time in the chat. Let's see who's the worst. I don't even know how to fucking show me my screen time. Okay, Google. Okay, Google. Show me my screen time. I wanted you to do it for me, you fucking... Okay. Well, let's see. Display, battery, themes. I'm losing interest in this. I'm losing interest. Screen time. Okay, this stopped being fun. There we go. Oh, 0 minutes. I don't know what the fuck this is. Okay. Anyway, moving on.
Sure, you about that. I have friends in
this will ignite
in the tech business who I really like, who I consider so smart and interesting. And I guess we all get preachy about what we're doing with our lives. I mean, I get preachy about.
We tried and we failed. We're becoming boomers, guys.
We're here to tell the truth. Yeah. So I'm trying not to be too judgmental. On the other hand, I don't see technology over the past 80 years. What about antibiotics and the polio vaccine? Okay, great. But in general, net, as we say in the douchebag industry, I don't see it as a net plus at all. I see it as enslavement and a total disaster. But they're like, what? Technology is making our lives better. Really? Tell me how.
Yeah. I mean, let's say, I know you want to talk about sports gambling. It's the perfect example, right? So it's something that's been enabled by the phone and has led, in my opinion, to what is the next opioid epidemic that we will see in the next 10 years. So in 2018, literally just 2018, the Supreme Court reversed ruled a decision that restricted sports gambling to the state of Nevada. New Jersey immediately, Chris Christie, by the way, is the person who brought this lawsuit.
Good job, Chris Christie. Jesus fuck.
Which legalizes sports gambling.
Good job. Good job. I think I just did a poll. See if anybody hit on it. Gambling. What's your opinion on gambling? Options being it's fine, but I don't do it. I gamble often. I gamble every once in a while, or gambling is wrong. What do you guys think? Let me know. I am interested in your thoughts on gambling, because as we are seeing, it has blown the fuck up. And with my COVID money, like the stimulus check, I was at a point where for the first time I realized that, you know, having money just sitting in a savings account while they're just printing money is essentially just throwing away your money. And so I was like, okay, well, I got to do something with it. And I was either going to get into Bitcoin or get into sports gambling. I made the right choice. Jesus fuck. Jesus fuck. That's a lot, but it's probably around the same as mine. Actually, that's not, I mean, would we count like watching TV, or are we specifically talking about being on the phone? Because if I'm laying in bed watching TV across the room, I don't really count that as the same as like doom scrolling. It definitely feels different. Like you get into one of these doom scrolls and you're there for 6 hours. And you feel like shit. It's just like what do I have just done? But I watched 6 episodes of a TV show. I'm like, yo, let's keep it going. But all right, I think we all see. We don't need to really talk about that. Let's go to this last chapter here. The Epstein cover-up is insulting and very dangerous. Let's see what it's about.
First term, withdrew from Paris, and he said, I was elected to be the president of Pittsburgh, not Paris. And I was like, wow.
So that's the problem
One
with
of
this
the most
Epstein
important
thing.
things.
The problem with the
Yes.
DOJ decision
Oh, it's already here. It's already here.
yesterday to cover up the crimes of Epstein, which they are doing,
Mm-hmm.
is that it leaves people at the very end of their electoral options. It's like, I voted for this guy, and I'll speak for myself. I voted for this guy precisely because I'm really distressed. I want justice. I want honesty. I think secrecy abets evil. I want someone to focus on my country, like all the basic things. And I think Trump wants all those things too. But when you allow something like this to happen, people are like, you know what? The system itself is beyond reform. There's no reasonable step I can take to improve this country or my own life. I have to do something crazy.
Yes.
Like you're creating true radicalism when you do stuff like this. Because what's the option?
Well, that's why, in a way, I want to hold a lot of these leaders to a higher standard, is because if you're elected on that message and you betray that message,
Yes.
in my opinion, you're more culpable than, let's say, the idiots like George W. Bush and others who really believed it, right? They believed what they destroyed our country.
I agree.
Completely agree.
But they at least,
like, we can have all the fucking shit, all the fucking shade for George W. Bush, but and I mean, you know, I wasn't paying attention, so maybe you guys can correct me, but he really did seem like a fucking retard.
at the very least, they didn't lie to us as much about wanting to address the very problems that they created.
They were wrong about a lot, but they were honest that, hey, we're going to go in and we're going to get Saddam because we believe there's WMDs. And I believe that Bush thought there were WMDs. Do I think that he maybe was willing to accept the notion of WMDs in Iraq because of his daddy's war? Probably. But I do think he believed it.
But when you have people like Obama, Biden, and Trump who are elected right now on the backs of fixing the most catastrophic presidency probably in American history, George W. Bush, but then to return to many, or in many cases, even go further and not actually address those, I think you're very culpable in that.
Yep. And yeah, I mean, if you live in Jersey, like it's a rite of passage to just go to AC at least for your 21st birthday, if not, you know, as a regular occurrence. And I have friends who, you know, like, yeah, they would get comp rooms and shit like that, but they would lose fucking $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 to do it. And I mean, when I was 21, I didn't really have money to like throw down. I might be able to go down there with $200 in a cash that I could play with. And, you know, you kind of need a little bit because you don't always just go, you know, you need to be able to come back. And I never really got into it. And I'm glad that I chose not to go into sports betting because I do have that addictive personality, and I would be that guy. Not only that, but at the last restaurant I worked at, like 7-8 years ago, I remember this was still, I was dealing with, I wasn't like in the throes of my addiction, but I was still doing pills here and there. I was drinking at work. I was doing a bunch of coke, and it wasn't like a huge issue, but it was a factor. And one of the guys that I worked with, after we both got off our shift, luckily at that place you can go sit at the bar, and we were just having a drink, and we were talking about just addiction in general. And he was addicted to the same kind of painkiller stuff that I was at one point. And then he also had a gambling addiction. And he was like, bro, the gambling addiction was infinitely worse. I was like, all right, bet. I'm not gonna bet.
And you reap what you sow. I mean, you said you're not a radical. I'm similar in disposition. Like, I don't want to see mass violence or any of these other.
But you're a married father.
Yeah,
you're
right.
like, I am too. It's
right.
Totally vested in the future of the country.
Exactly. I don't want that to happen.
No.
But as an analyst or as somebody familiar with history, somebody who has an audience and can pick up on social trends, people are mad as hell right now.
Well, hey, speaking of AC, when we hit 10K, we are doing a party in AC, Indian Jesus meetup. Morty will be there, so save up.
They are angry.
Too mad.
Angry.
Too mad.
Yes.
No, I agree. I'm legit. That Epstein thing, it's not even about Epstein. I can live. I think I know what the Epstein thing was. Everybody knows what it was.
Yep. Definitely ended with Jeb Bush.
I think YouPorn is the same thing.
Yes.
They're collecting information to blackmail people on YouPorn. Do you think a foreign government doesn't have access to the back end of YouPorn? I think
that's why you use the hub.
I think they do. And
incognito mode.
And so I get it.
Yeah, honestly, obviously, incognito mode doesn't do anything except that if I am like, oh, okay, let's pull something up. Why did that happen? Oh, no, come on. God damn it. If I do that, and I'm like, let's look up pork, then I don't, you know what I mean? You know what I'm saying?
I understand, everyone knows what's up. But to insult the population by saying, no,
I'm in Jersey. We still a blue state for now. So no VPNs needed for that. But shout out to Texas and what is it, Oklahoma or something like that, where it's been banned.
A conspiracy theorist. It's like
Nord Stream or Express or any of you guys, I will be happy to be sponsored by a VPN. Because there is stuff that I do where I definitely need a VPN. So hit me up.
I think you're really playing with fire when you do that.
Especially when you said the conspiracy and then now revert
it's
to
too
the
much.
lie,
It's
right?
too much.
That is too much.
Do you know?
You're doing too much.
Oh, I mean, can you call Pam Bondi and say, I think Pam Bondi's under a ton of pressure. Again, I've always liked Pam Bondi. I know her.
Bro, he's never been a Democrat. That's the whole point of the show, is that he's the conservative and she's the leftist. That's the whole point.
I think she's.
I mean, am I saying he's like deep red? No, but he is the conservative voice of that show.
Under enormous pressure. I don't know how good she is under pressure. Trying to be nice, but I don't think that she's like a sinister person who is, doing the work of Leon Black and Ehud Barak on purpose, really. But I wonder if they know this is a real thing here.
They have to know. And the reason why I think they have to know is that the breadcrumbs that got us to this moment have already been sprinkled. Kash Patel testified and said it was suicide. Went on the Joe Rogan podcast and said,
trust me, bro.
If I had that information, don't you think I would tell you?
No.
He killed himself. I mean, that was basically, this was an enshrinement of many of the things that they'd already put out there. And the criticism and really the outrage over each of those individual comments, let's say the so-called Epstein files released with many of the influencers, there was outrage at every step. So they're not stupid.
But how can you say that thousands of children were raped, but I'm not going to find out who raped them?
Yeah.
How can you say that?
I agree.
They said that. By the way,
as soon as I was about to switch over, all right, they're getting into it. Let's get into it.
Pam Bondi went on television and said, I have a videotape of kids getting abused. I followed this case closely, and I know a lot of the people involved, as I told you.
Shout out to Anna.
I had no idea. I didn't know that. Really? Thousands of children got raped? Yeah. Who raped them? Where are the rapists? Like, why aren't they in jail? This is the Department of Justice.
Yes.
It was just Jeffrey Epstein, and he ended himself. So
got nothing to do. Yesterday's news.
That is so crazy. This is honestly one of the craziest things I've ever seen in my entire life. And I just think it's very dangerous to play around with this stuff. Like, very dangerous.
Well,
I don't want a revolution, but if you wanted a revolution,
55% said no. Moon landing was not real.
this is how you would act.
Yes, yeah, it is.
Agreed.
Because, I mean, I gave Versailles as an example. When you pick the court over and over again and the people start to wake up to that, bad things can happen. And this is something that I find really disgusting about American elites, is that for a long time, the American Republic and the elite system has been one that can actually cycle at least some of the wants and the needs of the American voter to basically placate it and keep it from going down the path of fascism and or socialism. But when you continue to just double down on the imperium and on what fuels the empire itself, and you would keep ignoring all of these things. I mean, I do think this bill is an important part of that. Like, we're increasing defense spending. The empire is not even good at what's supposed to be doing.
No.
It's causing chaos abroad. The military-industrial complex is not even good at creating weapons or ammunition. The global financial system has been revealed as a complete ruse. We sanctioned Russia to death. Remember, we said that they will never rise. Their economy grew, and they were able to increase
I tried to tell that story, and I went to the Russian grocery store to, not because I want to live in Russia, though it's really nice, but to point out that, like, everything you said was going to happen didn't happen.
Yeah, they're doing fine. And what's the lesson in that? Is that, you know, the ability to produce the goods that you need, the ability to produce the energy, and to at least have a few allies who also reject the Western global financial system is all you need now to stand against the American empire.
We need a real man. I've got a beard, and that's me. All right, I think we are closing down on this chapter and get ready for the after party, but also the SWOGO.
I think that was actually one of the most important things that has ever happened, because we threw it all at Russia over the most insignificant conflict involving the United States. And what has China been doing now for the last 5 years? Just studying. Since Ukraine, they have been studying this.
And we did it because a small group of foreign policy and government officials deeply care about Ukraine.
Exactly.
They really care about Ukraine. Okay, that's great. I deeply care about Sweden. You maybe deeply care about India.
Yeah.
But you're not driving our foreign policy.
To India. What's under there? I am ready. I am ready. I'm scared. Oh, I gotta add another one. So it's 50. We had one more. So we had. We did not meet the 15, but we did get to 104. 52 pickup. 52 pickup. I don't know. I'm not promising. I'm not promising anything except the fact that I'm going to try. I'm going to try. I don't think this is going to work out, but I'm going to try my hardest. And I suggest that you guys do as well. Not just for me. Pay yourselves. Here we go. 52. A little more width than that. All right, here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 9, 2, 3, 4, 5, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40. Hold on. We got this. We got this. Oh, fuck. We got this. Let's fucking go! Ah! Shake it out. Shake it out. 10 more. 10 more. We got this. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
more, 6 more, 6 more. We're doing 6 more. One, 2, 3. Ah, fuck me! Fuck! Ah! Fuck! All right, I don't count. 2 more, 2 more, 2 more. We got this. Holy shit. One and 2. Ah! Oh. I was trying to do 1 for good luck. No good luck tonight. 52 fucking push-ups. Done. I'm exhausted. I'm exhausted. Holy shit. Holy motherfucking shit. Oh my goodness. What'd you guys do? What'd you guys do? For real, bro. For real. I was like, I could get 3. I could get 3 right here. And I'm like, well, nope. Oh, but for real, I mean, at least on this side, I'm seeing that little that wasn't there before. That wasn't there before. We getting there. There we go. There we go. Guys, thank you, thank you, thank you so very, very much for hanging out. I hope you guys appreciated the show. I hope you guys appreciated the push-ups. I very much appreciated you guys being here. Big, big, big shout out to all of these donations. Look at this shit. Look at it. Just look at it. Look at it. Look at it. You guys are amazing. Of course, we have the gifted memberships as well. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Let's fucking go. Thank you, thank you, thank you so very, very much for hanging out, guys. I so very much appreciate the fact that you are here, and especially if you are opening your wallet, but just the fact that you are here hanging out means the world to me and to Morty. So thank you so very, very much, guys. It is now time for the after party. If you click that link before this stream ends, you can join us. I can see Bob and Indie Film in there already, and it is about that time. Thank you, thank you, thank you so very, very much for hanging out, guys. Once again, this is Morty, and I have been your host, Lutch, aka the Indian Jesus, here to resurrect the second coming of common sense. Until next time, guys, we are out of here. Peace.